Sleepy town settling for the night, where the Owens women live their lives. And it's about time that the back porch light comes on at that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Okay.
That's bullshit. Hey, witch, hey.
Hey, witch, how you doing?
How are you doing? I'm doing good. I got my cold brew.
And your hashy hash brown?
I ate it really quick before. I ate it so fast.
Gonna give you the Burby bellies.
Because
Bubble bellies.
Punky was up my ass. So I was like, I need to eat this fast because he's annoying.
Shump. And just
Yeah. I gave him like 2 little pieces.
Oh.
So get him off my ass. But yeah. All right. We're good. We're good to go.
We're good.
We're good to go. We're good to go. We were schooled by Satan. Yes, we're schooled by Satan. School for Satan.
Okay, got us back on track.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about roses today, which we wanted to talk about earlier in the season, kind of closer to when we talked about lilacs, just because they're interchanged within the book and the movie, but somehow it just slipped our minds. So here it is, probably 20 episodes later than when it was supposed to be talked about.
Yeah, I thought for sure we were gonna do those back to back, but then we ended up doing something completely different.
Yeah,
I don't even remember what we did, but yeah. So we gotta talk about these roses though, because they're very apparent, mostly in the film, more so the film, I think, than in the books. Like they are, like roses do make an appearance in the books, but
in a different way.
And not as in the forefront. Like in the movie, they actually are like the star of the plot for the most part, right? But in the book, we find out that the lilac is actually in place of the roses as these mysterious things that grow kind of overnight, out of season. Kind of that the smell is alluring the neighborhood people and kind of enchanting the neighborhood a little bit.
But we're gonna get into it. We're gonna get all into these roses. There's a lot. Buckle up. But our lilac episode was episode, I think, 21, right?
Oh God, I don't remember.
So go back and listen to that. And also, if you didn't listen to the Sudbury episode, listen to that. But I really recommend also listening to the WMSR, because we go scene by scene with what is happening. Justina wrote it all out in detail, what we're seeing visually and the music that goes along with it. And in the Sudbury pilot too, they use roses as Jimmy's like sign of being present.
That's right.
So go back and listen to that one too.
Yeah. And in that episode, I'm pretty sure we even talk about how those roses in the Sudbury pilot, those were more, they have a more fantastical kind of, the way that they grow is more fantastical. Like she throws the ring
and it starts binding up all of a sudden.
And then, they just grow crazy. But in the movie, it's a little more subtle. Like it's a little more, quote, practical magic, like how they grow. Like they just appear overnight and we're not really sure how they came about or came to be.
You just get that small glimpse of the frogs on the ground and a little bit of the vines like moving slightly in the dark for less than 20 seconds.
Yeah, it's very brief. So we'll get into the movie a lot more in a little bit, but we have some business we got
some business.
All right, we do have a patron shout out. So what's up to our new patron Lori? Welcome to Magnolia Street. And we are so excited to have you a part of the neighborhood.
It's awesome getting to know you via our Discord and our Facebook and our Marco group. Just getting to talk to you is wonderful. And hearing your insights about a lot of the stuff we've talked about and just the different viewpoint that you've seen it from. But you brought something up that we really want to talk about.
Yeah. So Lori said her and her husband, when they back, I guess in the 90s when this movie came out, and they watched the movie and they saw that Margot Martindale, the woman who says, "Let's clean house" at the end of the movie, they both said that they recognized her from a Pine Sol commercial. And then like more recently, I guess Lori was like kind of looking for that commercial and she wasn't finding it. And now she's like, now I'm thinking like, was that real? Like, did I imagine that? Like,
but the thing is, she was saying, oh, they picked the lady from the Pine Sol commercial and gave her that line, "Let's clean house," because of the correlation between the cleaning product and cleaning house. But Daisha also said that she kind of remembers this, and I kind of remember this, and you did too.
Well, I remember a different lady. I don't know if it was Margot Martindale,
Okay.
but I don't remember. I'm not well versed in my Pine Sol commercials, so
But what
I
if it
don't
wasn't Pine Sol? That's the thing. It was some kind of commercial,
cleaning
but her
products.
face is like, maybe
Uh-huh.
that line is just cemented in our brains that we're melding it together.
Yeah, but then I kind of went down the rabbit hole and I was like, what if this is like a Mandela effect kind of thing where like some people remember Margot Martindale in this Pine Sol commercial or cleaning commercial and then some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And like whoever doesn't remember it is kind of like in this new timeline now. Like that's what they say, like certain people who remember certain things and then people who don't remember things, like somewhere along the line they like split timelines.
Oh my
And
God.
that's the Mandela effect. Like
Whoa.
it's so fucking strange.
Whoa.
So yeah, maybe we have switched timelines at some point, and now Margot Martindale is no longer a Pine Sol lady. I don't know.
But if you guys remember her being in some kind of commercial where she also said something maybe similar to "Let's clean house," please
Yeah.
tell us so we can sleep a little better.
Yeah, this is driving us nuts. We have been sent spiraling down this rabbit hole now. Like we were all looking for this like YouTube, I guess you know how YouTube has like old vintage commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for, I was just doing searches on Pine Sol or cleaning products or Margot Martindale cleaning products, Margot Martindale cleaning lady or commercials
Margot
or
Martindale commercials. Yeah.
nothing. We're coming up dry. So I'm just like, is it one of those like Mandela effect things? And then another interesting thing is that Lori is saying that now where in the 90s she remembers her husband agreeing with her like, yeah, that's the Pine Sol lady after she said that line, "Let's clean house." But now she's saying that she asked her husband again and now he doesn't remember. He doesn't remember her being in a Pine Sol commercial.
So
So do you
he's on the new timeline.
know somebody switched a timeline somewhere.
Very strange. High strangeness.
Very strange. Yeah. So if anybody remembers Margot Martindale in a Pine Sol or any kind of cleaning commercial,
But it's Linda Bennett, right? She plays Linda.
and
Yeah.
yeah, she plays the character Linda Bennett in the film Practical Magic, which is a very small character, but
Mm-hmm.
that's her one like I guess memorable line. "Let's clean house."
But
Like,
she has more of a presence than Clara. What's her name?
was it Clara? We talked about them.
We talked
And
about her, but she doesn't make it in the books, and Linda's in the books.
yeah, you're right. Yeah. And then you brought up the interesting theory that what if Linda is Michael's sister?
I don't know if that was me. Was that me?
Yeah, that was you.
Oh, wow.
That was
Yeah,
in one of
because she
our,
lost. Yeah. What if? Okay.
I don't remember what episode that was. It might have been our broom. No, not our broom. I think it was our coming out of the broom closet episode.
How do you remember that? That's
Because we
amazing.
were talking about the blonde lady with the crimped hair. I think
Mhm.
what was her name, Clara? I don't remember her name. Um, we were talking about her and how we think she was an actual witch and how she knew a little too much to like
Mhm.
be giving Gary all those little tidbits about like
Mhm.
disembowelment or ritual disembowelment. I'm like, how the fuck if she's not a witch? How does she know all this shit? But anyway, not to digress too much, but yeah, that's the episode that we were talking about. So go listen to our coming out of the broom closet episode. We go down a whole rabbit hole about those two. Going back to Margot Martindale in this Pine Sol commercial, we don't remember. We've looked for it. We don't see it. Lori's looked for it. She can't find it. Her husband doesn't even remember talking about it, I guess.
I
But
know. I even typed in
very
like just
strange.
"Let's clean house" commercial, and
Yeah.
like nothing was coming up.
All right, guys, keep your eyes peeled. If you're just like, going down the old vintage commercial rabbit hole on YouTube and you just so happen to come across Margot Martindale in a cleaning commercial, you let us know.
Yes, please.
We need to know.
We need to know.
We need to
But
know.
today we're talking about roses. But before we get into it, we have some little fan mail. Some. I didn't even read ahead. What do we got down here?
All right, so some cool internet finds. All right, so this is what I do because I'm a nosy Sagittarius and I just need to know who's talking about us at like all times.
Ooh.
So if you think you've talked about us and you think I won't see it, you're wrong. I will and I will blast you on our show.
All right. All right.
So I was Googling us the other night because
Oh my God.
I wanted to see like, who's saying what, I wanted to know what's going on out there. So I found this post on Tumblr.
Oh my God.
A Tumblr user on June 12th by the name of Coppercorn and Cauldron posted this to their blog. They said, listening to the Magnolia Street podcast, a podcast about the Practical Magic movie and book, in order to get my Owen sisters fix without watching the movie for the 1,000th time.
Oh my God.
So I'm so glad that we could I guess satisfy your fix for more Practical Magic. And that's exactly why we started this, right? Like, we know, like, Practical Magic fans, how many times have we watched the movie and read these books, like, and exhausted just like the actual content to the point of like, all right, this is my favorite book and movie, but like I'm getting sick of it now because I'm reading it, I'm consuming it too much. And like, you're in your own head about a lot of different theories. So this is just a nice place to come to, Magnolia Street Podcast right here, where we talk about all of those different theories and get your brain moving in all these different directions and going down twists and turns and rabbit holes.
Tickle your little imagination. We tickle your little Virgo bones and we give it to you straight. But that's awesome. That's exactly what you and I wanted. With the music, with this podcast, we were searching for like that little flavor of how Magnolia Street, how Practical Magic makes us feel.
And we wanted more, right? We wanted to consume more content, but Alice is like, girls, I'm done right now. She didn't say this to us. I'm just saying she's like the fandom as a whole. She's like, all right, guys, I'm done writing these books. Like, you're on your own now. And me and Kristina's like, oh, it's fine. We'll take it from here.
And thus insert Billy Zane into the into the story.
So it's just been so fun to like take this I guess this project on, and Alice has nothing to do with any of this.
Seems supportive, but she's like, you're on your own, kiddo.
Yeah. Like we send her stuff and she's just like, looks great. And she's like, all right, that's her nice way of telling us.
It's her publicist.
Fuck off. But going back to Coppercorn and Cauldron, thank you so much for this post. And this post got 5 likes and a reshare by another user named Cyber Folktale. So thank you guys for spreading the good word about our little podcast here.
Oh my gracious. That's awesome. Oh, I see you have a comment down there too.
Where?
This is Justina Carubia. I haven't been on this Tumblr in ages. That one.
Oh yeah, you went to the Tumblr. Oh yeah. So I actually reset my password to get into my Tumblr that I stopped posting to in like 2010.
I have a Tumblr too somewhere.
Just to comment on this post because I was so excited. I was like, and I reposted it. So I was like, this is so exciting. I had to sign in just to repost this and reshare it because it got me so excited.
Cool. I didn't know like stuff popped up in regard to us. I didn't think we were anybody really. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, sure. Tumblr? What?
So there's a couple little things that popped up. So, I'm just keeping a lookout. I'm keeping an eye out. Who's little birds are chatting out there. I want to know who's saying stuff.
Oh my gracious.
So here's another interesting find. So you guys, if you guys been listening to us for a while, you heard our Black Soap episode with the amazing Laura Den Hertog of the Enchanted Journal. And she's got an Etsy shop. And I found this in the same Google search. This was on the first page. And on March 15th of this past year, a customer left a review over on our Auntie Laura's Etsy shop after purchasing her enchanting black soap. And this is from one of her customers, L Sharp. And L Sharp says, "Thank you, Magnolia Street Podcast. The lovely girls on this groovy Practical Magic fandom podcast turned me onto this amazing soap in their recent episode. It has done wonders for my sensitive skin and smells divine. Packaging is adorable and arrived quickly from Canada to the US with skin cream and serum extras. Thank you, Laura." And that they purchased her black soap, plant-based and spellbound, I guess the skincare line that she has. So that's really cool. People are finding Auntie Laura through our podcast. Awesome. So that's the whole point, like, right? Like, we just want to spread the word about other up and coming witchy businesses and just giving them our support and just spreading the word and hoping that other people find them as well. And then we have made it onto a FeedSpot's list for the top 45 best witchy podcasts.
That's insane. What?
Yeah. So the best witch podcast, this list is compiled from thousands of podcasts on the web and is ranked by traffic, social media followers, and freshness. Freshness, yeah. And this page that we are listed on has a total of 73,000 views. So people are consulting this list like daily, looking for their next witchy podcast that they want to sink their teeth into. And we are on this list. And this was updated July 5th. Okay, so very recently. Mm-hmm. And our little podcast, Magnolia Street Podcast, is sitting pretty out of 45 podcasts. We are sitting pretty at number 10.
What the fuck? That's 10. Awesome.
And we are in good company because there are some bangers in the top 10. Are you ready for this list?
Yeah, I listened to some of these. Let's do this.
Yes, we do listen to some of these. So number 9 is A Witch, a Mystic, and a Feminist, ... the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8 is Tu Tia Bruja. Number 7 is Seeking Witchcraft.
I follow that one.
You?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that one. Number 6 is Talk Witchcraft with Mystic Sisters Erica and Maggie.
Cute.
Number 5 is Missing Witches.
Okay.
Number 4 is Modern Witch. Then number 3 coming in hot with the Witch Bitch Amateur Hour. I know me and you became friends or got closer because of this podcast.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Charlie and Macy, they're just amazing to us and we just like idolize them in every sense of the word.
Yes.
They're just so funny. Listen to the Witch Bitch Amateur Hour if you haven't yet. And number 2 is Hippie Witch, Magic for a New Age, which is, do you know Joanna DeVoe? Have you heard of her?
I used to follow her YouTube.
Yeah, me too. So that's Joanna DeVoe's podcast. So she's at number 2. Wow. And then coming in with number 1, New World Witchery, the search for American traditional witchcraft. So
his
really
voice
cool.
is so soothing to listen to.
Yeah, so I just think that's really cool. And to be in such good company of other amazing witchy podcasts, that is such an honor. Thank you to FeedSpot.
Thank you so much. And guys, like, I don't know how that list works, but keep us up there.
Yeah,
keep listening. Keep sending us lovely letters. We will keep bringing you the practical magic to fill your day.
Yes. Your face.
I think this episode will be available for our patrons in video format on our Patreon. So you can go over there. We also have our Magnolias episode over there to view for you.
Yeah.
You can see all the Italian hands that get thrown around.
And the weird faces Kristina makes at her own comments. She's just like, oh, I can't believe I just said that. Yeah. That's on our $8 tier, so go head on over there. There's tons of audio visual content on there for you guys to devour if you're looking for a little bit more visual stuff. Yeah. Also, real quick before we get into the roses finally, I wanted to announce that we have officially exceeded 10,000 streams across all platforms.
Holy shit, how are you finding this stuff? Where are you seeing this?
Listening to us.
I know. You guys nuts.
I bet you it's just like me and you just like refreshing the page.
Yes, just replaying. And oh shit, I should have edited that better. Oh man, I wish I would have taken that out.
But 10,000 times, I have to say, every episode is consistently getting at least 100 streams within the first week.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everybody. That is really so, that just like fills my heart. And me and Kristina are just like so thrilled. Like people even want to listen to us fucking talk about this bullshit for as long as we do every
love it. I really do. I was telling Justina that I woke up in such a mood this morning, but then I remembered I had the day off and we could record and my mood changed instantly. I was like, oh my God, I get to do my favorite thing. Yeah. It's really, really an amazing journey so far. This comes out in July, but we've already kind of gone over the rest of the year's episode calendar. And it's just nuts that we haven't even cracked the surface of all of our topics, all of our songs. Oh, here's to many more.
Yeah, here's to many more. And who knows like what we're going to talk about in the next year. We haven't even like talked about what's coming up in the next year. But and even so, like some of the topics we've already talked about, we have even kind of like talked about revisiting at some point. So it's just a never-ending rabbit hole that just begs to be discussed, and we shall at some point. We'll get back to those things.
I know we talk about this at the very end, but I'm going to plug our Patreon here. Go over to our Patreon where you can vote on topics. You can help us decide. We give you a couple to pick from, and it really does help us pick what topics we want to talk about. Also, if you are under our $5 tier through our Discord, we have a suggestion box. We have a patron perspective, and as this new year kind of is creeping up on us, we really would love any suggestions for the show on how to improve, on what we maybe could transition or incorporate doing. Please let us know. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. All right. So are we ready to jump into the roses?
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
'Tis but thy name that is my enemy. That art thyself, though not a Montague. What's a Montague? Or is it nor hand, nor foot, nor arm, nor face, nor any other part belonging to a man? Oh, be some other name. What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Juliet, son, Act 2, Scene 2. And that's that Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo quote.
Yeah.
Right? And we hear that a lot. Like, roses, so popular. Like, think of a flower. Boom, rose. Is usually like somebody's first thought.
It is the most popular flower.
It is. Yeah. But I don't really like roses. I don't really like them. I just want to share. I'm not a fan, and I wasn't for a really long time. And I don't really incorporate them into my spell work. And maybe after doing this episode, I will. Yeah. I've dried roses before. I've made rose water, but it's just like kind of my last go-to.
Okay.
You and I did use roses for our Beltane ritual. I think we put some roses around our altars. Yeah. So when we moved to this house, there was like one rose bush that was specifically like planted in the one spot, and we had been going through the process of like cleaning up the yard and the property. It was vacant for over a year. Like, nobody was here. There was cobwebs on shit. They had like up and moved to Florida and were trying to sell this place, and we were kind of skeptical. We were like, did somebody die here? Like, why has it been vacant for so long? But everything was like a little wild and overgrown. And I really thought, like, because we had pulled up other like brambly things throughout the yard, I wanted to pull this rose bush up because roses remind me of funerals. Their smell just brings me back to the funeral home and like hospitals, and even in church, like where I grew up as an altar server, as a young altar server, I was present at a lot of funerals. You know, it had gone through its first flowering, and people say, like, when you move into a new home, spend a season there, or like a year of seasons there to see what the plants do through each season and then decide. And I really should have done that, but the roses went through their flowering by the time we had moved in, and they were kind of already looking scraggly and unkempt, but they were really well established. Like, the trunk's probably 4-inch diameter or circumference. So it's pretty big. So I just decided to cut them back really hard. I was like, okay, if I chop these suckers to the ground, I'll decide what to do with them.
You went Sally on it with the shears, like shing, shing, shing.
I went full. They were probably only a couple inches from the ground, like 4 inches high.
All right.
It's just I wasn't strong enough to cut them any lower.
I hope you were cursing Jimmy Angelo's name while
right. No, I wasn't. I was really thinking of my grandmother for some reason, because I'll get to it in a minute, but I didn't want it to be like a total waste. So I collected all the thorns to use in later spell work, which I have used. But like I said, it just reminded me of my grandmother, who was like so proud of all her roses in the front of her house. She would always come out and say, look how big, nobody has such big roses like me. I didn't go to either of my grandmother's funerals. The one I'm thinking of because I lived in California, the other one because of COVID. And my grandfathers were bookmarking, you know, when I was 8 years old to very recently. And these two grandmothers in the middle, you know, I never got to say goodbye to them, but that smell just kind of is triggering in that way. But, you know, I had to let the thought go. And for a while, you know, we just had that little naked spot where the roses used to be. And the following year, that bush came back so hard, like full force. and it really produced like this huge shrub, like the biggest flowers I've ever seen. And then like it came to me that cutting something to the ground, then trying to ignore it doesn't make it go away. Not seeing it, not smelling it, it doesn't make the thoughts of loss that it brings up any less. Hold on. Sorry.
Oh,
You're good. So,
yeah.
At that moment, I came to understand that the act of cutting and pruning, and whether it be like physical, metaphorical, it doesn't erase that memory or the emotions tied to what's been lost.
Oh,
Damn the roses.
damn the roses. They make Kristina cry. This is like well, this is good though, because it's like getting you kind of like confronting, not that it's a fear like these roses, but like it clearly brings up some stuff for you that's just like very upsetting, and like I can visually see that they just even talking about them just makes you so upset. So it's easy to see like how you would like avoid them,
Right.
on your property. Like you don't even want them in your visual presence. Like you don't want to see them because like it obviously drums up a lot of stuff for you. So maybe this episode will kind of like enable you to kind of clear the slate a little bit
Oh,
and
absolutely.
start fresh with them. And
Yeah, just like finding those words, finding that connection, and then writing it out. I was like, shit, I'm gonna lose it.
oh fuck.
But like
Yeah.
that bush coming back with like this vigorous resurgence
Yeah.
served as like a poignant metaphor for the resurgence of the grief, like the visual grief right now. It reminded me that trying to suppress or bury our feelings of loss only prolongs their impact.
It's true.
So embracing the presence of our grief, we honor the depth of our love and the impact of what we have lost by allowing ourselves to feel and process the emotions that arise. We create space for healing, growth, and ultimately transformation. Just out of nothing, out of those dried, thorny ass sticks, this amazing greenery and life and nutrients for animals, for bees and insects, pollinators comes back. And the bush's resurgence serves as a reminder that even in the face of loss, new life can bloom and beauty can emerge from the depths of sorrow. So that second year after this, cutting, pruning back, the resurgence, that second year, I learned to embrace roses. For the first time, I babied the fuck out of them. I was deadheading and pruning, and any little of those like Virginia creepers, I was pulling those suckers out, and I redid that whole little border with the rocks. I was like, this is your spot now. And yeah, I cut little bouquets for my neighbors and dried petals and made rose water. Since then, I've planted 4 different other species of roses around my house. I was like, this house is supposed to nourish and nurture and cultivate, whoever wants to live here. And that rose was here before I was. So I need to respect that also.
Yeah.
And I know people say lilies give them the funeral smell, but
that's for me. Yeah. I'm not a fan. Like there's certain lilies that I do like, but then like we took out the whole side of our house was lined with like these, there were lilies, but we don't get a lot of sun on the side. So they didn't bloom a lot, and when they did bloom, it was for a very short amount of time, and the deer would just eat the heads off, the beautiful flower heads off. So like for the most part, it just looked like a straggly, because like the greenery of a lily, like the fronds are just very stringy and straggly, and like when the flowers aren't bloomed, it looks just like very like they look like weeds. They don't look very nice or pleasing at all. So we tore out that whole side of lilies and actually replaced them with roses.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I have a little bit about like my own experiences, but I'll let you finish your story before I delve into that.
No, I do want to hear yours, and I really hope this episode continues to solidify like roses are important too. I just think they're such like a basic ass flower. You know what I mean?
They are, you know what? They just like evoke such like a homey feeling for me. Like roses to me feel like home.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. My grandmother, like I grew up with my grandmother. I don't want to cut your story off.
All I'll finish with saying is that like my climbing roses, I have 2. I have one against the garage and one against the house, and I'm so excited for them to be just huge. So I'm trying to fill all of my corners with color. But
nice. I love that.
That's what I got as far as roses.
I love that. But yeah, like roses always just evoked such a homey feeling for me. Like my grandmother, like I grew up, I don't know if it's a European thing, because like you said, your grandmother was really proud of her roses too. And you're Croatian, we're Sicilian. I don't know, they came over here and just like, they had their tomato garden popping in the summer. They got their kukuca, like that long squash. It's like
What's
it's
that?
like 2 feet long. Do you ever see those squashes? They grow everything, zucchini, anything you can imagine. But my grandmother would plant these roses along the side of the house, and the side of the house, it was concrete, like it was not grassy, not a lot of foliage on the side, but she had the whole side, a whole thing of roses along the entire side of this concrete pathway that went alongside of the house. And I just remember those roses from my childhood. And then when we moved to the town that I'm in now, my mom planted a rose bush on my childhood home in town. Growing up, I would just use those for like little potions and little spells and stuff like that. And that inspired me to, when me and Avi bought this house, it inspired me to want my own roses.
Nice.
One of my own roses. So when we pulled the lilies out on the side, we planted 3 rose bushes in its place. And then this past spring, we just got a watercolor rose bush for our front yard. They were based on an artist. These are called painter's palette roses, inspired by the great French Impressionists. And the painter that these roses, I guess, were, I don't know how they make different like strains of plant or
either.
Right? It's crazy how they could do this. But these are called Alfred Sisley roses. And these are part of the Painter's Collection series created by Georges Delbard Roses. That's the name of the rose company. Alfred Sisley was an impressionist painter noted for his French landscapes. He studied art at the Paris des Beaux Arts School. I am not French. I don't know how to say that. There he became acquainted with Basile, Monet, and Renoir. Together they would paint landscapes en plein air, which is outside, rather than in the studio, in order to realistically capture the transient effects of sunlight. So they have like a very impressionist kind of like quality to them.
Like
They're
paint splotches.
exactly. They're very pretty. And we just found these in like our local Home Depot. We weren't even there for the roses. We were there for something else.
Probably the wisteria.
I think Avi was like looking at bonsais when I like he was looking at more trees to bonsai when my eyes went to these roses, and I was like, "What are those? Are those roses?" And Avi's like, "Yeah, they look like watercolor." And then we saw the tag, and I was like, "Oh my god, they are watercolor roses."
That's cute.
So I was like, "All right, we gotta get these. We gotta get these." I think we have some new blooms coming in because like the little red fronds are on there. Like we have some like new growth and new buds. I love seeing that. I'm like, oh my roses are doing so good.
Feel like I'm doing something right.
Yeah. For the past couple years, our roses didn't do too well, and I think that's because the aphids were like attacking them. And if you don't get a control on the aphids like right away, then they're gonna munch the shit out of the foliage, and then your roses are not gonna do well. The aphids actually ended up completely killing one rose bush. We tore that out last year and replanted it.
Wow.
We replaced it with a new rose bush because it was new. It was a new bush, so like it hadn't even been able to get established in the ground yet, and then the aphids just like fucking tore it up. It had no chance. So we were like, all right, let's start from scratch with a new bush, and let's stay on top of these aphids. So I think we got, what is it called? The neem oil. And you put that in some dish soap in like a gallon, one of those like spray gallon things. And you go around and spray. You could spray at dusk and at dawn. I think like in those like cooler parts of the day, they kind of like flock to the foliage around then, like when it's a little cooler. As for roses in like my spell work, I think roses is probably like one of the main things that I always try to incorporate roses into any kind of magic that I'm doing at every chance that I get.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever thrown away roses that have been given to me as like a gift, or like if Avi gives me roses on like Valentine's Day, I'll find some way to repurpose those petals. I'll pack them away in like little plastic baggies, save them for spell work. Again, roses just feel like home to me. I just feel so homey, and like they have such like a cottagecore aesthetic. I guess it also depends on the type of rose. tea roses are like those like peachy, pinky
I like
colors.
the soft colors. Yeah.
They're just so soft and beautiful and feminine, and like they just make me feel like a goddess, and I just
Yeah.
fucking love that.
Red roses seem like they mean business.
Red roses, yeah, red roses are a little, I don't want to say tacky. I mean, every rose has its place, but like you see those red roses on like The Bachelor or like some of
Yeah.
those cheesy ass TV shows like where they're trying to symbolize their love, and
Every rose has its thorn.
every rose has its thorn. Should we include that in our
No.
WMSR playlist? So I love to bundle dry roses and just like have them around as decoration in my home and my office. I've also used dried rose petals for like potpourri or to add to like any kind of bath soaks or salts. And I love just like sprinkling the petals themselves like to my bath water. I just feel so like decadent and luxurious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I also like when I'm doing a tarot reading, I like to spread rose petals around my cards. Fresh is better, but I don't mind a dried rose petal.
You make it an event. That sounds
Yeah.
nice.
I just like love incorporating them. And you could even add them to rose petals. You could add them to recipes. Rose petals, rose water, the essence from you could add them to anything you're doing, any kind of baked goods. You can add them to the dishes as a garnish. I've done that. I've also added rose petals to like roller bottles of homemade essential oil blends, and the possibilities are just endless as long as the petals have not been sprayed with any kind of pesticides or insecticides. Roses are completely edible. I'm pretty sure all parts of the rose, like the petal, and then there's also the rose hip and the rose buds. And they're just great for a variety of spells, recipes, and homemade craft projects and bath and body products. And I love being creative and making my own bath and body products, and roses are definitely one of those things that I always incorporate no matter what I'm doing.
You're living the Sally Owens dream of just
Yeah.
making your own lotions and potions. And we were talking about rose hips in another episode, and neither of us like really knew how to. I know they're good for you, but we included some information about them on here. I'm just trying to remember what episode it was. Like, oh yeah, what the fuck's a rose hip? I think it's the fruit of the rose, but I don't remember what episode it was on.
Yeah, I think like once you take away all the petals, it's like that little bulb that's like left inside, right? I'm still not
So
even.
we might want to start collecting those instead of deadheading, you know, toward the end of the season when you think it's kind of like in its last bloom.
Yeah. I still have not used rose hips for anything per se. Petals I use for everything, and I love having them around. They just make me so happy.
If you were a flower, would you be a rose, do you think? Are you a
I don't know
rose?
if maybe like a English tea rose.
Pretty. Yeah. A pink.
Yeah.
It has to be pink.
Yes, light pink or peach or something very just like light and feminine. And again, like the goddess, I think, did we talk about the goddess a little later? I think is associated with Venus, because that's the goddess of love, and roses are synonymous with love, right?
Yes.
But they're also synonymous with a lot of different things depending on the color, which we'll talk about a little later on. Going back to the movie and how you're saying I was like, you know, channeling my inner Sally. Sally actually, she incorporates roses into a lot more than like I guess, well, in the movie anyway, not necessarily the books. I noticed roses kind of interspersed throughout the film where I was like, oh, I never noticed that before. So
a lot of her scenes.
Some of them.
Okay.
Like they kind of make a little peep in the background, and I'm like, oh, I never noticed that before. So we're gonna talk about that right now.
They come up, like you said, as like a main plot device in this movie to symbolize Jimmy's presence, his resurgence. You know, he's there without being there. But throughout the movie, the roses just act as that visual motif, reminding the characters that the abundance of the power and the consequences of love. Basically, they convey the idea that love is not without its thorns, and it's still, you know, worth pursuing and cherishing despite the challenges that it brings. However, that toxic love that Jillian and Jimmy had, I don't think that's necessarily, you know, what it could represent as far as like the challenges and cherishing it. It's the sisterly love too,
right?
You know, that they share. And Sally really takes it. That is like her goal, is like, I got to get these fucking roses cut down or I'm going to go to jail. And my sister is too, you know?
Yeah.
So that it is almost like a beacon. Here's a dead body, you know, like these roses are just so eye catching in the movie.
Well, yeah, because as Gary points out, they grow out of season, right? So that's kind of why they're like that beacon. Like if they grew in the summertime, nobody would even bat an eye. But because they are such a deep red color, and we're going to talk about the colors of the roses in this film in a second, but because they are such a deep red color and they are growing out of season, it is like something magical is going on here. I don't know what Gary's in Gary's mind. I don't know what, but I'm gonna. He doesn't say this. I'm just like, I'm going off with his character. I'm gonna sort it out.
I think it's around March.
Yeah.
As these interview is the 8th, March 8th, 1998.
Yeah, even
so
though
it is definitely early, especially for New England.
Well, yeah, according to that line, but then we know that it happens after the solstice, so we're not sure what happened there. But going back to the roses in the film, when we first see roses appear in the film, they first appear as sort of these like dried white rose petals pressed into young Sally's journal. Like the very first shot we see of any kind of rose or petal is those petals pressed into her journal when she's like, she has it open and she's in the greenhouse working her Amas Veritas true love spell. So I found a really interesting juxtaposition to the roses in this scene and the roses that we see later on that are more associated with Jimmy and his spirit. So, and that comes down to the color of the roses. So if you notice, the roses in the Amas Veritas true love spell scene, those are white roses. Okay? And a young child, Sally, is picking these petals for her love spell. This spell has such a childlike innocence with the things she's wishing and hoping for her future love when she grows up. And all of these things that she's wishing for are such like innocent things, like her true love's eye color or his favorite shape or his ability to flip pancakes. They're such simple qualities, and she's not overthinking about her wants and her needs too much because she's a child, you know, and adults often tend to overthink things, like the things that they want, and they make everything so much more complicated than it needs to be. And she's just like, I just want a guy that can flip pancakes and has this eye color, and he likes
not too much to ask. It just doesn't exist.
Right. So her intentions while working the spell are coming from such a pure and innocent place, and the white colored roses symbolize that purity and sense of childlike wonder. And so she puts these petals into a bowl before ultimately sending them up to the moon. And this is the first time we see Sally's ability to work with nature. The earth, right? She works with the rose petals, the air, the wind that carries the petals away, and then ultimately the moon, which is this great magnet in the sky that aids her in manifesting her intentions. It helps guide her voice to whoever needs to hear her via the petals once they arrive at their destination, wherever those petals may fall, aka Gary, and then ultimately draws her wish to her, Gary, to her.
Manifestation queen.
There you go. There you go. So those white rose petals, that manifestation coming from such an innocent and pure place is what ultimately brought her to her destiny, to what was meant to be hers.
Even in her intention, like the intention, like you said, is so pure. And as adults, even when we think we have our intention is set, there's probably a little spot in your mind that's like, oh, I hope I did that right.
Doubt.
You know, sometimes there's still that doubt, and kids just go for it. They're like, they are so confident.
Yeah,
when it comes to stuff like that.
There's no fear. And you know why there's no fear? Because they haven't experienced life yet. They're not jaded.
Right.
They're not jaded by, you know, grief and loss. And I mean, they have lost their parents at this point, but they still, like, that part of their mind or brain isn't developed enough yet to kind of really absorb or process what that actually is or what that means for them for the rest of their lives. Even though, like, they've suffered the loss of their parents, they're going through that grief process and also trying to find their footing in this town as these outsiders.
Even if you're like, personally, I've experienced loss, but not to the degree that Sally has. I haven't lost a spouse, thank goodness. But I was just talking to Caitlin about Erin has never seen Titanic. And I was like, to watch it now as where I am in my life. I don't know. It would be so much more upsetting, I think, because I watched it like what I was way too, I don't know, I was like 12 maybe, like, and I was like, whoa, boobs on a screen. It was, and the VHS you had to switch over. But like now as an adult, I think I would be very upset watching it. I don't know why. Is it because we gain more empathy as adults? Is it because we have a greater sense of danger? I don't know, but it definitely, as a kid with that innocence and looking for that, not even looking, she's anti-looking. She's trying to conjure something that doesn't exist, but ultimately she has so much power. It, out of millions of people, Gary finds her.
Yeah. And who is it? Antonia or Carly that says it in one scene when, Sally's an adult and her daughters even call her out and they're like, oh, she has so much power and she doesn't even use it. Like, she's always had that power within her, and she's, she used it as a child because she had less fear, less, she wasn't overthinking things as much. So I guess I'm just trying to say, like, she wasn't, she's not overthinking things as a child, and that's where that purity, that's where it's coming from, more of a place of purity and not overthinking those things, and that's how she's able to manifest the things that she wants. But then there's a juxtaposition between the white roses that Sally uses as a child and the deep red roses that grow later on when the girls kill Jimmy and then bury his body. So let's take a look at those roses, the deep red ones that symbolize Jimmy. So the first time we see a hint of these deep red roses is about 47 minutes into the film. Now that's pretty late in the film to kind of introduce this motif that's ultimately going to be the catalyst for some things that happen later on in the film, and kind of just symbolize the darkness that is about to ensue and happen in this house. So Jimmy has already been dead and buried, okay? And at the point when these roses grow. And the very first shot we see of them is it's like a pan across the garden at nighttime, right before it cuts to the aunts making the midnight margaritas. And in this quick little cutscene, we see the vines actively growing and stretching out across the ground. And I think we even see like a frog or two. So pretty much the very first impression we get of these roses is not a good one. And I'm sure the music, like the tone of the music in this scene, has a lot to do with that too.
Frickin' Alan Menken.
Yeah, we could tell. We could tell that this is not a good thing that these roses are growing. We're like, okay, what the fuck's going on here? But the next time we see the roses, we see them through a window, and this is about 53 minutes in, and this is the morning after midnight margaritas, when the shit hits the fan with the tequila bottle, and the aunts demand to know what's going on, and the girls refuse to tell them, so they're like, okay, we're fucking out of here. We're not sticking around to find out what bullshit you conjured up.
Bye.
You're a fucking mess. Goodbye. Yeah. So now this is the morning after the midnight margaritas. The aunts are gone. Kylie's standing by the window, and now the rose bush is pretty much full grown at this point. We see roses. We see the bush full of these beautiful deep red roses, and they pretty much grew like this overnight. And we also see Jimmy, the figure of Jimmy, standing by them. So right away, we know that this rose bush, this is kind of confirmation. This rose bush is not good. So Sally asks Kylie to go to the garden and get mint for her headache, and Kylie refuses, saying, "Not while he's out there." And Sally wants to know, what do you mean? Well, and not while who's out there? And her and Jillian rush to the window. They're looking. They don't see anybody. Kylie's like, "The man under the roses," which we wrote a song about the man under the roses, about that scene.
Do we put a clip in here?
You want to put a clip in here?
I'll put a clip in here.
All right. So yeah, we wrote a song from Kylie's perspective called "The Man Under the Roses" when she sees Jimmy.
Right there beyond the window pane, clear as day, got me wondering why no one else could see him. No one else could see him. It's strange, I've never seen the rain make a roses grow out of season. Oh, what did you feed them? Oh, what did you feed them?
Super cute song. Super cute song.
Yeah, it's so fun. And I think that's what I had the most fun with, like, writing the songs for this project, is like writing from each character's different perspectives,
Mm-hmm.
especially the children,
Mm-hmm.
because the children, like, they have such like a small role in the film. Like, they're like, they obviously have a perspective. Like, we don't really see it completely from their point of view. Like, if they were to actually have like a soliloquy or a monologue, or
Right, right. But
right.
even the melody and the music that goes with it is so like bouncy and childlike,
Uh-huh.
and it's
Yeah.
it fits.
Yeah. The one that I wrote for Antonia too. That's another fun one. We'll talk about in another episode. But
Did I tell
yeah,
you I had a dream about Evan Rachel Wood? We were at some like gala and I
like
was sitting
recently.
across the table from her and I was like praising her, like I loved you in Practical Magic, and she was like, "Oh, I don't like to talk about that." And I was like, "What?" And she was
Wait a
like
minute.
apparently like something really bad happened to her at that point in her life. And I was like, "I'm so sorry. I still think you're great. True Blood was awesome. You got to kiss Alexander Skarsgård. Like I love you."
Well, do you have prophetic dreams?
I
Because
do.
that's really weird. Because who's to say we won't be sitting across from Evan Rachel Wood at some gala
At a
that's
gala. Oh my
because
God.
it's practical magic related, and
She's
maybe
intimidating.
yeah, she is a little intimidating. Um,
Beautiful, but God,
yeah, yeah.
intimidating.
But oh man, could you imagine if that really fucking happened?
This was like 2 or 3 days ago, and I kept forgetting to tell you.
That's amazing. All right, well maybe that'll happen.
Okay.
I mean, not that she's gonna. I hope she doesn't blow you off when you ask her about practical
I
magic.
know.
but but I hope we get to sit across from her at some gala. That would be so cool. So anyway, so Kylie sees Jimmy under the roses, and Sally and Jillian don't see him, but they see the roses. And Jillian goes outside in efforts to, like, does she try to chop them down? I don't remember. Or she's just like pulling at them, and she's like
Jillian's,
cutting.
yeah, pulling at him. Yeah.
Yeah, she's pulling at them, and she's like, going all crazy. And then Sally tells her to go inside, right? And then Sally starts cutting at them with the shears, and that's when Gary rolls into town, and he's like, "A little early for roses, ain't it?"
Don't walk into my backyard. Like honk your horn from the driveway and do
Yeah.
not come up my lane. Thank you.
Yeah, so him and Sally exchange some words. He wants to have some words with Jillian. He's looking for Jillian. Sally goes inside to get Jillian. And before she goes inside, she's like, "How do you know she's my sister, right? Or how do you know I'm her sister?" And he's like bending down on the ground. He's sniffing the rose. He's sniffing the rose. And he looks up with those like different colored eyes, and he's like, "Little lucky guess, I guess." Right?
Don't play coy, Gary. Come on. Be an official law enforcement agent.
Lucky guess, I guess. But he's like sniffing that rose and giving her the eye, like,
But they had just seen Jimmy's boots sink back into the ground. So she's like, oh, fuck. Like, the stuff she cut down, I'm sure she's hoping, like, oh my God, I hope that stuff is covering up whatever else is poking out.
yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah, that's why she's like, "Why don't you come inside?
get away from those
Like,
roses.
yeah, let's get away from those roses before you see some other shit we don't need you to see."
Yeah.
So it's soon after Gary comes waltzing into that garden that he actually lets us know that the roses have, in fact, grown out of season.
Mhm.
Right? He's like, little early for roses, ain't it? But it's different in the book, because in the book we talk about the lilacs actually growing out of season, not the roses. So that's an interesting little switch up that the director or the writers did for the movie. And I'm wondering what do you think the reason for that was? Did we talk about that
I
in the
don't
lilac?
know. Like maybe because they were all silk flowers, maybe like silk roses are easier to arrange, get your hands on than lilacs, because lilacs are a little more delicate and they're all their little tiny petals or something.
Do you think it was a matter of logistics, like logistically it was that reason because they were easier to get fake flowers of that? Or do you think it was like maybe roses are more, I guess, associated, or maybe because roses are a more, like you said before, not basic, but like more wide received or more popular or more associated with love?
It might have been also like visually more appealing with how they grow, like
Uh-huh.
with
Like
like
on
the
a vine.
vininess as opposed
Right.
to a bush.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Some
Yeah.
lame ass
Which
bush.
which in the book, doesn't it make it sound like lilacs are a vine as well? Did they
Um,
ever say lilac trees, or does she say lilac vines? I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't think they grow on a vine.
No, they don't grow on a vine, but I'm saying, like, in the book, I was always under the impression that these lilacs were on a vine, kind of like a
Oh,
wisteria.
oh,
That's how I was envisioning it in my head.
oh. Okay.
even though like I know lilacs grow on a tree, but I don't know, but maybe it's because I'm so used to the roses in the film and I
Mhm.
was just envisioning, I was trying to make the connection or the switch up in my head when I finally read the book
Mhm.
about the lilacs instead of in place of the roses.
You
So it
know
was
what
just
else Alice likes to do? We just talked about it. The magnolia tree. She also has blooming out of season. Like
yes,
that's the magical sign. Is like a
that's the
glorious
sign.
magical tree out of season.
Right. That's her that
Her calling card.
yeah, yeah. On IMDb, when you like look up like information or like trivia on movies, a lot of the times I'll notice like if a director has like a specific thing that he does, like
Mm-hmm.
they'll put that in the IMDb trivia, like that's his shtick or whatever. I don't know
Shtick.
what do they call that?
Yeah.
Trademark or
Trademark.
something, trace something like that. Yeah. I guess that was it about the okay, there was one more thing about the red roses. I don't think we see them very much again until the end of the film. I think Sally and Gary do have a conversation under those rose vines,
Mm.
but I don't know if we see any roses. You know the scene I'm talking about where he's like, "I wish for you too."
Yeah.
After like the whole thing with like Jillian and the
Mhm.
exorcism, and like he like puts the star to Jimmy and he like dissipates or whatever. And then Sally's like, "All right, I got some explaining to do."
Yeah.
That whole scene was under, I think, under those rose vines, right?
I think you're right.
Yeah, but I don't know if we see any of the roses in that scene. And then I don't think we see the roses again until the very end when the aunts and the whole phone tree rids Jillian of Jimmy's spirit and they sweep his ashes out to the garden and then they dump the pot of lye and we see the roses a little bit still in bloom in the back. And then I think at the very end we see Sally burning like branches and bramble,
Hmm.
and I guess she's getting rid of the last of these roses
Hmm.
for that season, because then as we know it shifts into autumn and fall, and the roses by that point are probably out of season. So by that point I think the roses are dead by the time she's finally burning all this bramble and stuff. But that's the last we see of the red roses. But we do see some other roses throughout the film, not just in the beginning, Amas Veritas with the white rose petals, and not just these red roses, but like little background, little morsels like sprinkled throughout. So I did notice some pink roses on the kitchen table. The scene where Sally's getting the plates and stuff ready to eat the pancakes outside when Gary comes over.
Hmm.
In the kitchen behind her, you know when the cat is on the table, there's like a little like quick shot of Magpie, or
Hmm.
what's implied to be
Is it when
Magpie.
Gary's flipping the pancakes?
Yeah, and there's a shot of Sally, I think with the plates or whatever, and right behind her is you could see the vase of pink roses. And then again, we see white roses again adorning the center of the table when they're dining on the pancakes outside in the garden.
It's funny that the white roses are there when the kids are there.
That's what I was thinking, because
Weird.
white roses symbolize maybe the children or that
Because the
childlike.
kids are never around when the roses are red outside.
Right,
Weird.
right. But Kylie does see them though.
She does see them, but they're never in the same location, I guess.
Right. So I just thought that was interesting. Just white roses must be synonymous with that childlike innocence and
And they're also
purity.
playing innocent too.
So yeah. Yeah. They're trying to save their aunt from getting in trouble. I don't know if they know too much of what's going on. They just know what they're told, and they're just
Right.
they were told, Aunt Jillian said, keep this man away from this town. But then they find the love spell that their mom did, and the love spell synonymous with the white roses and the roses on the table connection, right?
Right. But also the girl, not just the young girls trying to play innocent, but it was probably one of the older women that put those roses out there as maybe like a symbolic, like this is a safe space, like the innocence, like the Jillian and Sally are innocent.
I'm willing to bet that was Sally that put those roses on that
Oh
table.
shit, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jillian's like,
Because
I'm just
yeah.
worried about the syrup. Get
Yeah.
this man out of here.
Exactly. Sally's doing all the decorating, but I also just think that Sally, like you said, just wants to make this a safe space, and the white roses for her, like they feel like home to her, like they just remind her of her childhood
Mhm.
and just making that magic happen as a child.
It feels welcoming to have
Right.
live flowers on a table.
I guess we'll start off with book 1, Practical Magic.
So in the book's Practical Magic on page 34, it goes, When Michael moved in, the house itself began to change, and even the bats in the attic knew it and took to nesting out by the garden shed. By the following June, roses had begun to grow up along the porch railing, choking out ragweed instead of the other way around. So in page 84, the black soap the aunts send as a present every year has been taken out of the soap dish and has been replaced with a bar of clear, rose-scented soap from France. And this is when Jillian moves in, I think. Page 116. When either sister stepped into the shower, the warm water turned to ice as though someone had played with the faucet. Milk would curdle as it was poured from the container. Toast burned. Letters the postman had carefully delivered were torn in half and their edges turned black like an old withered rose. 117. She got the shivers when thinking about him. This is talking about Jillian. She got them all the way down to her toes. Ben had sent her flowers, red roses, the morning after they'd met at Del Vecchio's. But when he phoned, she told him she couldn't accept them or anything else. It's funny that he sent red roses.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Fucking basic guy. So on page 119, it says, these women would give anything to have Ben Fry sending them roses. They say Jillian needs to have her head examined for sending them back. And 2 pages later, 121, Ben is so mixed up that he begun to do magic tricks involuntarily. He reached for his credit card at the gas station and pulled out a queen of hearts. He made his electricity bill disappear and set the rose bush in his backyard on fire. Page 189. Don't think the summer is over, even when roses droop and turn brown, and the stars shift position in the sky. Never assume August is safe or a reliable time of year. 239. But her hair never grew long again. It wouldn't reach past her shoulders. Jillian washed it with rosemary, with violets and rose petals, and even ginseng tea. None of it did any good. 265. When Ben goes over to the aunts, reaches into his sleeve for his rain slicker and pulls out a bunch of roses. Aunt Jet accepts them with pleasure. Lovely, she says. Aunt Frances runs the petals between her thumb and forefinger to verify that the roses are real. They are, but that doesn't mean Frances is so easily impressed. And 279. There are some things. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
There are some things, after all, that Sally Owens knows for certain. Always throw spilled salt over your left shoulder, keep rosemary by your garden gate, add pepper to your mashed potatoes, plant roses and lavender for luck, and fall in love whenever you can.
You know what? Okay, real quick. You know what I think is interesting? Okay, so this is the book, right? The book quote, plant roses and lavender for luck. But they don't say that in the movie because the roses... They never planted the roses. The roses grew on their own, so they don't need to plant those. And they can't plant those for luck because they don't... In the movie, they clearly don't mean luck. They mean something more grim.
That's why they took it out. That makes much more sense now.
Because they're not for luck. They mean something way more sinister.
Exorcisms. Well, that was it for Practical Magic. And then the next book is Rules of Magic, which is the aunts and Vincent story.
So this starts on page 19. They arrived on Midsummer's Eve, the summer solstice, when the day is so long, it seems for once there is all the time in the world. The roses were in bloom, and a green blur of pollen drifted through the darkening air. Page 58. Together, they lifted the old black cauldron to hang on a metal pole over the wood fire. Ashes floated up in a fiery mist. To the mix, they added roses from the garden, lavender that they had grown by the garden gate, or by the gate, herbs that would bring luck and protect against illness.
Doesn't that feel better to say, though? By the garden gate?
Yeah. I think that's referring to when Franny was helping Isabel with the soap, right? When they were the soap. Page 59. The liquid soap in the molds hardened into bars. Inside each was a dash of shimmering color as if each contained the essence of the roses they'd added. Page 150. The hangman's elm, said to be over 300 years old, stood in the northwest corner of Washington Square Park. That was where the witches were set to gather. The last execution in Manhattan took place here in 1820 when a 19-year-old slave named Rose Butler was hanged for burning down her master's house. This is a true story, by the way.
Oh my God.
After that, most people avoided the tree after dark, or at least they made certain to keep lavender in their pockets to bring them luck when they passed by. Yeah,
can we do an episode on this? Is there enough to talk about?
Oh, I'm sure. But that was a real account.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So just want to throw that out there. Alice did her research. Page 151. Franny stopped at a cafe for a strong cup of coffee. Listening to the waiters argue in Italian, she felt transported. She went to a flower shop and bought a rose that was so dark it appeared black. Page 161. They mixed henna with lime, roses, tea, and eucalyptus and let it simmer overnight. For henna's hue reflects the strength of love of a woman for a man. The thicker and deeper the color, the more genuine the love. Page 164. She lay down in the brambles, sinking into them, yet she didn't feel the stickers. They drew blood, but the thorns didn't hurt, and each bruise of blood resembled a rose. If she were dead, would she be reunited with Levi? Was he waiting for her right now? And that's in reference to Jet at the alchemy tree. Page 227. True enough, the yard was thick with them at this time of year, a sea of yellow. Jet saw that the garden was far ahead of the rest of the town. The wisteria was already blooming. The climbing roses were budding.
Out of season.
Out of season. Page 237. The Willard home was a white house with green shutters, more than 200 years old, with a huge garden that had never regained its former glory once the Reverend had cast down salt on the day when April Owens blundered in, aiming to pick some of his pie plate-sized roses. Now the rose bushes were bare and the leaves curled up. Page 245. It was a clear, bright, beautiful day, the air tinged with salt, the climbing roses blooming. The graveyard was filled with sunlight.
Oh, pretty.
Also on page 245, there were oysters and a salad and white wine. There were roses in a milky vase in the center of the table on a white lace cloth that had belonged to William's great-grandmother. Page 248. For days after the murder of the deer, there was a trail of blood on the concrete path where the poor creature had last lain. Near that place, the children of PS 41 planted a rose bush one murky afternoon. It bloomed overnight. There it is, with masses of white flowers, though the blooms were out of season. Again, out of season, but white flowers, not red.
Right, when it comes to the kiddos.
Right.
Wow.
It was a miracle, everyone said, and some were satisfied, but to anyone with the sight, there was still a sense of doom in the park. Interesting that they're white, though. Franny stopped going to Washington Square. Instead, she sat shivering in their own small garden, and she waited for whatever was bound to happen when a white deer appears, or when white roses bloom overnight, when bees follow you home to nest in your rooftop. So, I guess white deer, white roses, anything white seems like something foreboding, like a symbolism of something foreboding in this book anyway.
Dude, can we just bring back around that you marked me because there was a white stag, a white deer in your neighborhood just hanging out?
I just saw it driving to work one day and I was like, what the hell?
It's crazy.
That is crazy. Oh man.
Did anything bad happen to you that week?
Not that I remember. See, like, I think symbolism is kind of like what you interpret it to be, because I always interpreted a white deer as something more majestic. And
yeah, something good.
Yeah, it's just like an anomaly, right?
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of it as like foreboding, but I guess Alice thinks different. So page 259. Jet had phoned April when they learned Isabel had taken ill, and April had sent a huge flower arrangement of white roses and ferns. Jet gave the blessing from the book of poems she had given her aunt. In this short life that only lasts an hour, how much, how little is within our power. So that's the poem I guess she read, which I think is interesting how she sent a flower arrangement of white roses and ferns. So she sent white roses as like for sympathies, but then white roses also mean something darker. Maybe white roses aren't so bad if they're not blooming overnight. Maybe if maybe
it's California fine. Roses.
There's a loophole somewhere.
This story is full of them.
I know, again. It hurts my brain. Page 282. They drove out to Sag Harbor. It was early spring and the trees were budding, but the air was still cool. It was a clear, bright, beautiful day, the air tinged with salts. The climbing roses blooming. They were in William's car, and they all were black. They barely spoke, especially when they drove on the Sagticos Parkway past Pilgrim State. Page 329. On days when Hay was busy, Franny walked through the city. She liked to go to the cafe in, how do you say that word? Tuileries, a place Madame Durant had told her Vincent had frequented, and to the Ile de la Cité, where she sat on a wall near the cathedral so she might watch the river, and to the garden of the Rodin Museum where the budding roses were impossibly large. Page 338. Talking to April now, Franny wondered why they hadn't been friends all along. Perhaps they were too much alike. headstrong, willing to do anything for Vincent, refusing to accept certain aspects of their upbringing and their fate. She looked out the window and saw a fleck of white in the garden. A single rose bloomed. Dusk was falling. Vincent always said it was the best time of day. Half in one world, half in another. So here's where I start to like think that the white roses blooming overnight are kind of synonymous with Vincent. He like, quote, dies or like, I don't know, fakes his death or whatever. And Franny and Jet, like, they don't know what really happened to their brother, right? They just know that he had to like disappear, right? So it's just strange that the symbolism of these white roses, or the single white rose, is blooming to symbolize Vincent, I guess. Page 343. The doctor's patients threw rice, and the children's chorus from the elementary school sang "All You Need Is Love." Franny carried a bunch of long-stemmed red roses, and this was during Franny and Halen's wedding. Page 354. First a pale orange cookie that was apricot, then a green pistachio, then chocolate, of course, then the best of all, pink ones that tasted like roses. Regina brightened up then, as she did when anything came from Paris. And this was in reference to macaroons that came from Paris. I think Vincent sent those to a young Sally and Jillian. So on page 365, Sally asks, is he the one who sends the cookies? The ones made of roses from Paris. So they're getting these gifts from their grandfather in secrecy, right? Because he's supposed to, like, I guess, be dead or in hiding.
Is he sending them to, so April, is he sending them to Regina, right? And then she's giving them the cookies, and then they start questioning. And does Regina even know it's her grandfather, or does she just think it's somebody of her mother's that cares for her and has been sending cookies?
Good question. I don't know if this is when Sally and Jillian came to Magnolia Street, and then Aunt Jet, or it says Jillian was not a fan of snakes or vines or trees that looked like monsters, but Aunt Jet offered her a hand and said, I have something special for you for breakfast. One of the girls says, is it macaroons? That was our mother's favorite. She always got a box sent from Paris on her birthday. Jet and Franny exchanged a look. Did she? Jet said. Well, this time it's chocolate cake, the best you'll ever have. But yeah, so I guess Franny, I don't know if Franny thinks he's alive or dead, but she tells Sally that he's alive and living in Paris.
Yeah, the last she's heard, for all she knows, he could be dead.
Right, exactly. But I mean, how can he send those macaroons if he did?
I'm going to safe word because this is a whole different episode.
A different episode? Okay. What's it regarding?
Vincent.
Vincent? Oh, yeah. I can't wait to do a Vincent episode.
Just the juicy one.
All right. Okay.
All right, magic lessons. Here we go. Lessons. All right, page 12. This is a list. Alice loves her list. Lists of magical materials: candles, essential oil, lavender for calming, sage to purify, rosemary for remembrance, rose for love. 119. On Tuesday, she baked Shrewsbury cakes, buttery and flavored with rose water.
You know, we should find a Shrewsbury cake recipe with the rose water.
I don't know what that is. What's a Shrewsbury?
I have no idea. All right. I'm gonna look that up while you read on.
All right. So we did a whole love potions episode. Go listen to that. But roses come up in their love potion number 9, which is on page 121. And for love potion number 9, Alice lists out that you will need 9 ounces of red wine, 9 basil leaves, 9 rose petals, 9 cloves, 9 apple seeds, 9 anise seeds, 9 drops of vinegar. Combine all the ingredients on the 9th hour of the 9th day of the month. The effect is strongest when performed on the 9th month of the year. Stir 9 times. Let the one who drinks this wine. Oh, and then you say, let the one who drinks this wine grant me true love divine.
So these Shrewsbury cakes are really cute. A little bit more about these Shrewsbury cakes. This is a classic English recipe that comes from the county town of Shrewsbury in Shropshire, and has been spruced up with the addition of rosewater and rose petals. And traditionally, Shrewsbury cakes were made using dried fruit and spices, but this recipe on bakingmad.com has used rosewater, rose petals, and caraway seeds. So this is a whole recipe. We will link this in our show notes. We have some more recipes coming later on, but I just thought this was so fascinating because it's directly correlated with magic lessons.
They're very pretty, but they look like they make your mouth go.
dry, very
Like a real
dry.
chalky.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe, well, it says buttery and flaky, so maybe it's more like a croissant.
Or a sugar cookie, maybe.
Maybe a sugar cookie. All right.
Yeah.
All right, page 250 says, it was a miracle that Faith's garden was such a marvel. She grew feverfew for health, rose hips and skullcap for healing, and lavender for luck. 280 to 281. That night, Faith slept outside so that she could see the stars. She thought of men and women who spent years in prison, unable to see the heavens. That did something to you. It drained you inside. In the morning, there were white and red roses growing in the place where Faith had slept. They had bloomed from the withered plants Maud had brought with her from England that had never grown well in the sandy soil. Maud had wondered about Faith from the start. Now she was certain this was no ordinary girl. To be sure, she was protected from any witchery. Maud carried a piece of rose quartz. We have not even done gemstones or stones or anything yet. So, oh my God.
Season 2 is going to be lit. Just
Rose quartz she had collected from Beach in Cornwall, a stone that is known to cure most ills. One look at the stone Maud Carty had tucked in her sleeve, and Faith knew she had been found out. It was best to make friends out of enemies. 296. The hue of henna that had been mixed with the lime and roses, the tea boiled and simmered overnight, would reflect the strength of a woman's love. The deeper the color, the more genuine the love.
Wait, wasn't that passage in Rules of Magic?
It was something about henna, too.
Right.
Yeah, they did a henna thing.
Yeah, Rules of Magic. The henna, again, with the lime and the roses and letting it simmer overnight. So I never noticed that before, but that passage from Rules of Magic, well, even though Rules of Magic was written before Magic Lessons, I love that little Easter egg, how the aunts, I guess, are using the spells from Maria's or Faith's grimoire, or
they actively use her spells, her book.
Yeah.
It has been passed down. Speaking of spell books, this is out of the Book of the Raven on 299. It says, what I have sacrificed, what I have given, what I have hidden from the world, what is needed to do the same. A wand of hazel will be needed. Rosewater should be beside you at all times. A pentacle of Solomon should be drawn on the floor to summon the spirit of Oberon, the king of magic. Stand in a circle that unites the 4 sections of the world and the 4 elements. Then burn myrtle wood and sandalwood. Burn white nettle, the herb of the archangel.
So there was some mention of rosewood, in I think this book. I didn't include any mentions of rosewood because I looked it up. It actually has nothing to do with the rose or the rose bush or the It's something completely different, so I didn't even include it, but they do talk about rosewood quite a bit.
Yeah. Good research. In page 303, one night she cut her arm and let her blood sink into the ground. In that place, a stem arose with a single red rose. That rose was the magic inside her, and every day the rose grew darker until one morning the petals and the stem were black, and the thorns were so sharp not even the bees would come near.
Damn. I guess that's about faith, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you think it...
Another safe word?
I think it has to be a safe word. Yeah. Page 304. I know.
I don't know. Just say it before you forget it.
And then I just want to I think that Faith got more of John than she did of Maria in her darkness.
I could see that.
As long as that. All right. In her place on earth. Okay, this is 304. Her place on earth had been decided. She'd known what it would be before she read the floating word, for it was already in her heart. And the black rose in the garden had grown to be as tall as she. Revenge was what she wanted. Page 307. Folk medicine was far less dangerous than the work of medical doctors. Practitioners of the nameless art were held in high regard when it came to their talents and their knowledge of curative tonics, seeds to induce sleep or cure insomnia, packets of dried lavender and rose hips for tea that would calm the nerves. I can't wait to talk about rose hips. I really want to incorporate those.
I guess that's its own episode, right? Because that's like its own thing.
I don't know. There is some included in here, but to me that's like the rose hips and the thorns are like the bones, you know, like they're like the base. They're not like the exterior aesthetic, the prettiness. It's like the essence.
Yeah.
342. He watched as Maria washed the child's matted hair in a bowl with warm water and black soap that had a distinctive sweet scent. Rose and rosemary, sage and lavender.
That's when she was trying to save that little girl from the breakbone fever.
From the breakbone.
The break bone.
I'm Joan.
Yeah, we got one more book, and that is the Book of Magick. And this starts on page 69.
Ayo.
Says the Ayo 69. The Rambler roses had no buds and only black leaves. The lawn had gone to seed. The paper lanterns William strung along the deck, always so charming, had been shredded by the wind. Interesting, because this passage is saying that the Rambler roses had no buds and only black leaves because they are such like light and airy flowers with like bright green foliage.
Mm-hmm.
For those to have black leaves, there's some darkness
It would
going
be
on
very
there.
noticeable.
Page 71. His admirers hadn't vandalized his headstone as Jim Morrison fanatics had, with graffitied messages and spilled bottles of alcohol. Instead, Vincent's fans left candles that glowed in the gloaming and white roses tied in bouquets with red ribbons. He beheld scores of love notes, more than he could count, some left out in the wind and rain for weeks or months. So again, Vincent, synonymous with these white roses. Page 94. Kylie had been so sad and preoccupied ever since her aunt's death. He wanted to cheer her up and present her with something beautiful, roses that would erase the gloom of the day. He knew she preferred yellow and hoped they were in stock. Yellow, the color of courage and hope, loyalty and joy. He did not think of its other meanings, jealousy and sickness and deceit. He thought only of how lucky they were to be at school together, how lucky to have found each other when they were so young. And this was in reference to her, was this Gideon?
Yeah.
The entire book, she's trying to save her friend that went into this coma after getting into an accident.
Right.
And that sends her spiraling. That's kind of like the catalyst for this whole book. That sends her spiraling to the UK, to Essex, to find her roots, to find this book, to put the end to this curse. That's her mission for this entirety of this book. Page 131. How did you find us, dear? Helen asked as Kylie bought a small bundle of herbs, along with a bottle of cologne containing rosewater and a wand made of hazelwood. Page 197. Once off the train, Kylie was directed down the street by a ticket taker, and there she found a local bus that had made so many stops in a string of little towns that it took nearly another hour to reach Thornfield. It was a small village with most houses dating to the 17th century, many with mossy slate or tiled roofs, and gardens set behind stone walls. The area was famous for its roses, many of which had already begun to bud in bursts of salmon and crimson, along with the pitch black variety that was known as the Thornfield Rose.
I love a salmon colored.
Yeah. So I tried looking up this Thornfield Rose, and I wasn't finding anything. I don't see anything about black roses called the Thornfield Rose, but I did do a search on Thornfield, and apparently it has a connection to Jane Eyre, the novel Jane Eyre by Charlotte, I don't know how you say her last name, Bronte?
Charlotte Bronte, yeah.
Thornfield Hall is a location in this book, this story, Jane Eyre, and it's located in the country of England. The narrator never explicitly shares which area of England it is in. However, the reader learns that Thornfield is quite a distance from Lowood and Gateshead Hall.
Have you read or watched that movie?
No, I have not.
Dude,
it's a romance?
You should. It's got a little creep to it.
Really?
Yeah, she was a good creep writer.
Okay.
Watch the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
because I won't give anything away, but there's a third character that gives me Caribbean Maria vibes.
Oh, yeah?
Maybe that was Alice paying an homage to another woman writer.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm definitely looking way too much into it, but page 198. Now on the verge of summer, with the unfolding roses incandescent in the fading light, people still kept the windows in their children's bedrooms closed at night. Also on page 198, Kylie stopped at a shop called Marion and Jason's Tea House. There was a Thornfield rose bush outside the door of the shop with one black flower already blooming. Bees were gathering, droning in the falling dusk, drawn to the scent of the blooms. Page 284. When they cut up the apples, the flesh of the fruit turned from white to red, just as some roses do, with pale buds turning scarlet once fully opened. Page 291. Nowadays, Matt's sister had 2 grown boys, and on the first day of May, the day she might have lost her child if not for Margaret, she always brought Margaret Wright a sticky fingers cake made of fudge and rose truffle.
What the hell's a rose truffle?
I don't know, but that sounds delicious. Page 313. She, talking about Jessie Wilkie, who was the waitress who worked at the Three Hedges pub, which is the pub where Tom Laughlin brings Kylie. She'd been busy all morning because Rose, the woman who usually came to help clean up, had called in sick. So now there's another character, Rose. So do you think
Rose Bucator? DeWitt Bucator?
Well, I mean, this book is in the present day, right? So it can't be
Rose McGowan?
Rose McGowan. It might be Rose McGowan. But I don't think it's Rose. I don't think it's Titanic Rose because
Okay.
this is already like a century later now.
Okay.
But that's all we got from the books. Is there anything we wanted to touch on before we take a quick break?
I like that in the behind the scenes from the movie that Sandra Bullock's like really getting ripped up by those roses when she's going to town cutting them. And she's like, Griffin just wants me to be bleeding and cut head to toe. And they're like rearranging the flowers. They're like putting the flowers back in and setting them back up. And she's like, just let me go where I feel the scene emotionally should go.
They are real then. If she was getting cut up.
I don't think the roses were real.
All right. So then they were fake. It was fake blood. Fake blood. They weren't really getting cut up while they were filming this.
I think she was really getting cut up.
Then they had to be real.
Well, but the petals would be silk. The stems and the thorns could be made out of something else, plastic.
I don't know. We'll never know unless we talk to Stephen Alish and what's Standifer?
Robin. Yeah. Come on, guys.
All right. Are we ready to take our break?
Yeah.
All right. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to get into some of the science and history. And we're going to tell you all about the origins of the rose and its place in the Middle Ages. And then we're also going to get into all the magic and lore, its medicinal properties and health benefits of the rose, and how you can incorporate roses into your beauty and skincare regimens. And did you know that every part of the rose is edible? We're going to we're going to tell you all about its culinary uses and give you some rosy recipe ideas, all this and more when we come back. So stay right there. We'll be back. Hey, little witches. The Stinas here. If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you would know how much we love using the Practical Magic Inner Witch Oracle deck by Grounded by the Moon.
And now we want to share the magic of Grounded by the Moon with you, our listeners. Joseph Benitez Egerton, the creator behind Grounded by the Moon, would like to offer this very special 10% off discount to all who wish to experience the magic of his Practical Magic themed tarot and oracle decks.
But that's not all. He also creates other divination tools like tarot workbooks, deck bags and altar cloths, pendulum kits, oil blends, cleansing sprays, smoke wands, teas, and ritual kits.
And let's not forget about his custom handcrafted all-natural soy candles, where every candle is hand-poured and personally infused and charged under the light of the moon. They even come with a crystal.
And did we mention all of the ingredients in the candles are ethically sourced?
All of Joseph's offerings are just so magical. So go visit groundedbythemoon.com and use the coupon code Magnolia Magic for 10% off your entire order at checkout.
That's MAGNOLIA MAGIC. So get your discount today. Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to Magnolia Street Podcast. So I guess we don't have to pull a card, right? Because there is actually a rose card in Grounded by the Moon's Inner Witch Oracle deck. So we actually pulled this card, I think, in one of our recent episodes, and then we opted not to read it, right? Because we were like, let's save it for the Rose episode. And this is from the second edition Practical Magic Inner Witch Oracle by Grounded by the Moon. Head on over to groundedbythemoon.com, get yourself 10% off your entire purchase. And he just came out with a 78 card actual tarot deck. We've been using the Oracle on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And
we haven't even gotten every card yet.
Right.
And, are we gonna ever be able to incorporate the tarot deck?
Maybe. I've just been having fun getting to know this deck and just diving deeper into its meanings and how we've been making all these little connections between the cards and the episodes that we're doing. So it's just been fun just working with this. But this is the Rose card, and the keyword on this card is confidence. Also, it says stand up. So it says when a rose shows up, It is a reminder that you need to be confident and stand strong with pride and determination. It's time to step up and stand firm on the choices that you are making for your life. You know exactly who you are and what you need. Take pride in your actions and beliefs. You need to stay true to yourself. Once you start believing in yourself, the magic starts. Don't forget this. In Magick, roses help with protection, love, and happiness. It has connection to some goddesses. With a variety of colors and connected meanings, this flower is a great universal magical tool. Utilize the power of the rose to help enhance the magic of this card. Carry some in your pocket or use a rose water spray in your daily routine. And the mantra on this card is, I know who I am.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's funny because the minute Jillian is like, I'm done, like, I'm going to be my own person, I'm doing my own thing, these roses start growing. Like, Jimmy's like, no, you're not. You're mine. You're going to do what I want.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. But ultimately, he's possessed. But, you know,
Right.
she gave a good little fight.
Yeah. Do you think the roses in some way and like the vines kind of constricting that arbor, like him trying to grasp control or maintain control on that situation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And be very present, like visually,
Right.
like, you can't ignore me.
Right. And vines, being that they were like climbing kind of roses, vines, they don't let things go unless you literally cut them out of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Jimmy.
They are grasping on for dear life.
You have to kill them.
You have to kill them.
You literally have to cut them to the ground and burn them like Sally does.
Right. It's like kind of like a cord cutting ceremony almost, without the fire and the candle and the flame and the twine and all that.
There's so many underlying
Oh my God.
motifs.
Yeah, 100%. But then also I was kind of like, when I was reading this just now, I was kind of pertaining this to our own situation right now. And like me and you have tons of irons in the fire. Like we got like a lot of stuff, a lot of little projects we're working on aside from this podcast. Like we're trying to, you know, get the music going. We have some other maybe more visual projects that we have ideas for, but this just like reminded me of like this project and why we started this project, and keeping the momentum going. You know where I'm getting at. Our listeners might not know what I'm getting at, but I think you know what I'm getting at, where it says it's time to step up and stand firm on the choices that you're making for your life. You know exactly who you are and what actions you need to take. And we know what actions we need to take, but there's some doubt there.
There are some doubts, but ultimately you and I have discovered that we are probably stronger together.
Yes.
And making choices together and following our instinct, even if, and our intuition, even if it's in all reality, probably not the easiest thing or will be the most fruitful, but like it's true to our morals or, you know, our instinct. So we have to go with that.
Go with our gut. And this reiterates this rose card. The interpretation in this booklet says, once you start believing in yourself, the magic starts. Don't forget this.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of like a nice reminder that like, we got this.
I like
we got
that.
this. Because I know there's a little bit of doubt, but you know, if we just stick together, like you said, our magic, we're stronger as we are a force to be fucking reckoned with. So watch out, America. Yeah.
Jables and
Kyle Gass.
KB.
So it's just a nice little reminder. Just, we got this.
We really don't have anything to lose except maybe like our friendship and our sanity.
No.
You know, like I don't think anything's going to rock our world that much. And, you know, as far as the decisions we're going to have to make in the upcoming months or like with the podcast, whatever is going to happen, it's all going to be in order to share practical magic in the best way that we know how together.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a nice little nudge from the universe.
I like that card.
Like, we're on the right track. We got this, as long as we just keep following that intuition and our gut and like going with what we know feels right. And it might not be what other people are telling us to do, but let's talk about the origins of the Rose. And you know what? I did want to include a little bit about Rose from Titanic and the connection to her and like how we...
Did you put that in here?
No, I didn't. I was like, we're not even going to go down that rabbit hole today because I kind of want to do like an episode like just on that.
Okay.
So I'll save it for another. I'll save it for a rainy day. I'm going to keep that one in my back pocket.
All right. So the word rose comes from the Latin word rosa, which is not very original, but it was probably borrowed from the Oscan, which originated from the Greek word rhodon, Rhodon, and ultimately has roots in Old Persian. So, belonging to the Rosaceae family, there are hundreds of species and many cultivators of roses. They can be shrubs, climbers, or trailers, often with prickles on their stems. The flowers are usually large, showy, and come in various colors like white, yellow, and red. We're going to talk about the colors later. Most roses are native to Asia, with some found in Europe, North America, and Northwestern Africa. I did not know that there were roses in Northwestern Africa. That's cool.
Yeah.
They are grown for their beauty and fragrance and hold cultural significance in many societies. Rose plants can range in size from compact miniatures to tall climbers. Different species easily hybridize, contributing to the wide variety of garden roses. So the oldest remains of roses are from the late Etian Florescent Formation of Colorado. Roses were present in a part of the Paleolithic period and extends from about 33.9 million to 23 million years ago. So to put that in perspective, we just did our Magnolia episode. Magnolias were that 95 million years ago during the Cretaceous period, and that Cretaceous period predates the Paleogene period, just to put that in perspective.
Context.
So the rose hips, sometimes are called rose haw or rose hep, is the accessory fruit of the various species of rose plants. And it's typically red to orange. They're a cool color. I really think they're like almost like a pomegranate-y, but more orange than that. But ranges from dark purple to black in some species. So a little bit, I guess, about the nutrients of rose hips, usually from arginina, are a minor source of vitamin C. Rose hips are used in breads, pies, jams, jellies, marmalades, syrups, soups, tea, wine, and other beverages.
I've never heard of a rose hip soup. Have you ever
I
heard of
haven't either.
rose hip soup? Interesting.
They can be eaten raw like a berry. That's good to know. Because like those things kind of look poisonous.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, it does say like every part of the rose is edible, or you can ingest every part of the rose. And I know people use rose hips for like a supplement, I'm pretty sure. Like I've seen
Yeah.
those in, like the health food stores. I've seen rose hip whatever, like, you know.
So yeah, you can eat them raw like a berry, but I guess there's hairs inside, like maybe like an artichoke. So
Yeah.
it does say that the hairs are used actually in itching powders. So research studies show that rose hips in the form of meal contains a significant amount of essential amino acids as well as polyunsaturated fatty acids, from which the most abundant is the alpha linolenic acid fatty acid. A meta-analysis of human studies examining the potential for rose hip extracts to reduce arthritis pain concluded there was a small effect requiring further analysis of safety and efficiency in clinical trials. So the use of rose hips is not considered an effective treatment for knee osteoarthritis. So I guess they were trying to figure out if it could help that arthritis pain, but it sounds like more research is needed on that
That is
front.
oddly specific.
It's real specific.
Knee osteoarthritis, not just any
Yeah, not
arthritis.
anywhere else.
Yeah. Okay. So roses in the garden. So if you're trying to grow roses are very hardy. They do well in pretty much any conditions, but they do like full sun. They don't like to be crowded. They should be planted in well-drained, well-balanced soil. They should be watered every day that it doesn't rain for the first 2 weeks after planting, and then twice a week thereafter. They should be pruned in the early spring before blooms appear, down to about 1/3. Cut flowers to keep the plant producing. Neem oil, which is what I was saying before, the spray can help reduce problems with pests and fungus, such as those annoying aphids that seem to attack our roses every freaking year. Compost around the base of the plant in the fall. We also mulch ours. We keep ours mulched, so that also keeps in a lot of moisture.
It probably keeps the pests down too. You know, if there's nothing kind of close to that bottom,
And the
it makes it
weeds.
harder for them to get up.
Right.
And the
Yeah. And
diseases too.
we also put down like weed fabric. I know some
Mhm.
people cardboard to keep the weeds at bay. They're pretty easy to grow other than that. Miniature roses can be grown indoors or out, but are more delicate than full-sized roses. When grown outdoors, they need some sort of cover to protect them from the cold in the winter. Burying them with leaves or other mulch can help and adds nutrients to the soil. If you get very severe winters, you can dig them up and bring them inside for the winter. And I don't know, like digging them up, I would think that like would shock the plant, you know?
I think plant them in the spring. Like,
Yeah.
don't plant them in the fall because then they'll have time to establish. And like the roses here are fine, but you're more north than I am. Maybe you have had cold snaps where your roses start to come in and then they get bit by the frost. But roses can get fucking huge. How are you going to bury that shit in a pile of leaves?
Yeah. Or you can do the old, like, my grandmother used to wrap her fig tree for the
Oh,
winter.
yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
mean, you could wrap them and
In
just like,
burlap.
and keep them away from the frigid temperatures if you really want to.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I find like we kind of let ours go. We don't do too much pruning or like taking care of them for the winter. We like kind of let them die out for the season. The foliage dies away for the winter, and then in, early spring, the leaves start coming back, and then we, start taking care of them as they start coming in. It says you can plant roses near chives, feverfew, garlic, geranium, marigold, onion, or parsley for best yields.
I want to do a live shout out real quick. We just got a comment that's from H. Nariva. Just found your
Wait.
pod today. Heart emoji. I feel like I found my people.
Stop! That's so
That's
sweet.
so nice. Thank you.
Did she post that on our oh, she
Or
commented
that
on
doofy ass video you made of me
eating
shoving
chocolate cake.
chocolate cake in my face
That's amazing.
with that doofy sailor music behind it.
Oh, that's awesome. Her name is Hannah. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks for
Thank
listening.
you.
Yeah, we love when our people find us.
That's
If
gonna
we're-
blow her mind when she
If,
listens to this
if we're
episode.
your people, you're our people. I love how like Mandy Pickety Pumpkin. She's also like, you guys are my people. I love when
Yeah.
people refer to us as their people. I feel like I just feel the love.
And you can
Okay.
take the next one because I found you a
You
really
take the
good
high road.
article
I'll
there.
take the low.
Yeah.
Nasty man.
There, the crevasse. All right, harvesting and storing. So cut roses as they bloom to keep the plant producing. They are great in bouquets and last a while in a vase. You can hang the whole flower upside down to dry, and it will look great in dried arrangements as well. The petals and the leaves can be pulled off of the plant and spread on paper to dry and stored in a jar. Be sure to leave some so that they can mature into rose hips.
So don't cut the stem, just take the petals off of them and then let the end of the stem where the petals fall off from, let that mature into a rose hip.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to try that this year.
So this next article I want Justina to read because it was big. I kind of summed it up, but this came from my favorite jester.com, and it's all about roses in the Middle Ages. And this is by Mia Tuwa.
You said something before, though.
I said, ooh, bitch, you better buckle up for this one.
And that got me all excited because I'm like, oh, if Kristina called me bitch, she means some serious business. And I'm just like, what the fuck? What are we gonna uncover here? So
it was 13 pages. So we
Holy
summarized it, and it was written in 1982 for the Economic Botany magazine, but
All right.
13 pages. So here we go.
So this is just a summarization then. Okay, so roses in the Middle Ages. Here we go, guys. So roses were once more than just horticultural and perfumery subjects. They held religious symbolism among Christian Europeans and played a significant role in medicine. Their importance in these areas has overshadowed their role in perfumery and horticulture, which is often forgotten today. Historically, roses gained popularity in Europe during the 1200s and 1300s after centuries of increasing favor. Initially, early Christians, like Saint Clement of Alexandria, viewed flowers and perfumes as abhorrent due to their asceticism. However, the Romans, who considered roses and rose water symbols of luxury, embraced them extravagantly. Banquets featured rose petals showering guests, and Nero's banquet even led to notable guests suffocating under the mass of flowers.
What?
That's kind of like when we're talking about the Magnolia and their scents being so sweet that it would intoxicate people and like just kill them. All right, so back to the roses though. The Middle East played a crucial role in shaping Europeans' perceptions of roses. Roses were cultivated in Western Asia and Northeastern Africa as early as 5,000 years ago. The Zoroastrian text Bundahesh mentioned the rose's significance and the idea that thorns appeared when evil emerged in the world. Jimmy, hello!
I know! I was like, what?
Connection. All right, everything's connected. Legends attributed the birth of roses to drops of Muhammad's sweat, increasing their popularity. In the Near East, roses became symbols of faithfulness and affection even beyond death. So you have a little bit here.
Oh, I just wanted to point out what Zoroastrianism is, and it's an Iranian religion, and it's one of the world's oldest organized faiths.
Okay.
So I had never heard of that,
Yeah, me neither.
Zoroastrianism.
So to meet the high demand for roses and their products, Persia developed an extensive industry between the 9th and 16th centuries. Rosewater production thrived, with Fars, a region in Persia, paying large quantities to Baghdad as taxes. Arab distillation techniques allowed for the creation of new rose products, including attar of roses and high-quality rose water. These rose products were traded extensively and introduced to Christian Europe as early as the 10th century.
So they were using these as currency?
That's what it seems like.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, which I mean, that completely makes sense because a little later on, we talk about the distillation process of rose essential oil, which I see we're talking a little bit about here. Rose essential oil is very expensive.
Okay.
Very expensive. And we'll talk a little bit more about in context later, like how expensive just like 5 milliliters of this oil is. It's insane.
Why?
Yeah, we'll get into that. But the term, quote, rose oil referred to various rose products throughout history. Initially, rose water was made by soaking petals in water, but with the invention of distillation, it became the distillate obtained from boiling roses in water. Rose oil often referred to olive oil infused with rose petals. True attar of roses, the essential oil separated from the distillate, was believed to have been discovered around the 17th century. However, older references suggest the Arabs may have discovered it earlier through distillation techniques.
I'm so glad you're reading this, by the way. I would have stumbled and bumbled my way out of here.
All good. During the Middle Ages, other rose products gained importance primarily for medicinal use, which we'll also talk about today. Rose honey, rose syrups, and rose sugar became popular. The preparation involving mixing rose petals and allowing them to infuse in honey or sugar. Syrups would sometimes be boiled with rose petals. Determining the exact rose species used in ancient Rome, medieval Persia, or Europe is challenging due to the historical distance. But again, a little later on, when we talk about the rose distillation process, we'll also talk about the types of roses that are most common in this distillation process. I think there's only 2 kinds, which is why it's so damn expensive just to get a little bottle of this stuff, because they're very limited in their supply.
Branch out. Use different varieties, guys.
I don't think they can, and they're because we'll get into this.
Okay.
They're not a very oily plant, so they don't have
that makes
oil
sense.
to give off, so it takes a lot of petals to make up a little dram of oil. So that's why it's so expensive. So this says by the time of Macer Floridus around 1000 AD, only Rosa centifolia, R. canina, which is the dog rose, and a, quote, wild rose were mentioned. Confusion in nomenclature persisted, with misapplied names and changes in herbal descriptions. By the 17th century, during Parkinson's time, and John Parkinson, not to be confused with James Parkinson, for which the disease is named for, but John Parkinson was the last of the great English herbalists and one of the first of the great English botanists. The number of rose species described exceeded that of the Romans. Parkinson listed 24 different species, some distinguished solely by coloration, while some of the increase in species may be due to excessive splitting, improved gardening techniques, and the introduction of new species from the east or the wild may have contributed to the expansion. However, it is worth noting that not all species mentioned by Parkinson are found in earlier references.
I just thought this was so fascinating.
Very fascinating.
Because we do try to do the history of it, but like where do you start? With the Paleogene period? Like we got to keep you guys like listening, and we know these episodes are long enough.
Yeah. And again, if you want to refer to any, we're going to add timestamps so you guys can hop around.
Yeah.
Depending on what you want to listen to. But we do want to keep you as informed as possible about every topic we talk about. Yeah. So roses in early horticulture. During the period following the fall of the Roman Empire, the cultivation of roses was neglected. Only monks and nuns who had the leisure and inclination grew roses. However, there was a Christian aversion to roses and anything associated with Roman culture during that time. In pre-Christian Germanic cultures, wild roses were planted near graves and used as hedges around sacred places. But garden roses were not known. The Benedictines were the first to introduce the concept of gardens, as we understand them today, when they crossed the Alps. In the 8th century, garden roses were grown in southern France, possibly in the form of hedges. The future of rose gardening was secured when Charlemagne included roses prominently in his plans for crown land gardens in the late 8th century. This had a significant influence and led to the rapid spread of rose cultivation. In 840, holy shit, the garden plan of St. Gallen's Monastery showed roses bordering the herbarius, which is another name for botanist, one who is skilled in the knowledge of plants, alongside, what did we say before? Lilies. Wow. Maybe that's why they're the funeral flower. Roses and lilies go hand in hand.
But so were lilacs.
Remember? It's all connected. Monastery and convent gardens preserved and expanded these garden varieties, which eventually spread to castle gardens and gradually to other secular gardens. Secular meaning not of any sort of religion, but a little more mainstream. So while all flowering plants were grown for their practical uses, including medicinal purposes, roses and lilies were also cultivated for their beauty and to adorn altars during certain festivals. Around 1200, Albertus Magnus included roses in his plan for an ideal pleasure garden, which featured a perfect lawn, shade trees, flowers, including roses, and a central spring or fountain. By this time, rose cultivation had also reached Danish convents and monasteries. Early references to garden roses in Germany can be found in the works of poets, but these references may be more poetic license than botanical fact, since they often include exotic elements like fig trees, which we just talked about figs too when we were talking about port wine.
Oh my god. Yeah, dude, it's so weird. And I accidentally highlighted something earlier because my dyslexia got the best of me, and I thought that said magus, like the book. And I was like, what? But yeah, like another name down below comes back around, something we've talked about before. It's just, I'm not going to question it.
It's for a reason. There are no coincidences. Everything is very connected.
It's very connected.
To a creepy degree. So let's talk about the religious symbolism of roses. The religious symbolism associated with roses contributed to their enduring popularity. The pre-Christian Germans associated roses with soul and death. The rose was also sacred to Freya, the goddess of love. These existing associations likely played a role in the rose's acceptance as a Christian religious symbol. Although the Bible does not speak of roses symbolically, early Christians began to see roses in a different light. Saint Cyprian and Saint Jerome, in particular, praised roses and considered them as rewards for martyrs in heaven. Saint Benedict and Saint Francis of Assisi, isn't he the animal saint?
Yeah.
He saw roses as a means to mortify their flesh and resist worldly temptations.
Come on, guys.
Yeah.
There was a really cool quote on that Fleabag. You need to watch that show. It's so good. But she's talking to a woman, and the woman is explaining that women are just born of pain, and you know, our bodies go through it, and we are just naturally attuned to pain, and men have to seek it out. You know, they do these, you know, this is an extreme situation, you know, that was done at the time, but men tend to seek out pain, whereas women just live it.
We're just born with it.
Yeah. Maybe it's pain. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's pain.
Maybe it's pain. That's a new shirt.
Yeah.
Oh my god. All right, so the symbolism of roses in Christianity further evolved over time. In the 1st century, red roses were believed to spring from the blood of martyrs. Walafrid Strabo is an Alemannic Benedictine monk and theological writer who lived in Reichenau Island in southern Germany. And in 1840, I guess he attributed the rose's color to the death of Jesus. The rose symbolized the sufferings of Christ as well as the Virgin Mary, with white roses representing her virginity, which we talked about before, of white roses being that pure, like that innocence, and red roses representing her compassion. Rose miracles, where food carried to the poor was transformed into roses when discovered by hostile observers, were also part of the rose's symbolism.
Did you grow up learning about Lady Guadalupe? How she appeared to the children or the kid, and she told him to go pick the roses. And that was like, that's her like flower. Like he was carrying the roses in his shirt. And then when he dropped his tunic, her face was there on his shirt.
No, I did not grow up. I don't remember learning of that one, but I was going to ask about, because isn't that very prominent in Mexican culture?
Right.
So I was going to ask about that because just like trying to like think of like other motifs or other kind of like symbolism that's, you know, that we've seen either consciously or subconsciously throughout our lives. That one always sticks out to me. And I'm like, the Mother of Guadalupe is surrounded by roses. And I never knew what that meant. Thank you for enlightening me.
Yeah, I was trying to look up because we also grew up with the Our Lady of Medjugorje, which I'm trying to look what I'm pretty sure her it's going to be roses also, but she appeared to 3 children, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, her and roses, they're tight.
Right.
They're tight.
Okay. All right. So that makes sense. So the rose's symbolism in Christianity reached its pinnacle with Dante's use of the rose as a symbol of heaven. In Dante's Paradiso, the eternal rose represents the entirety of heaven, with petals representing souls and fragrance representing the eternal praise of God. Dante's use of this symbol reflected the rose symbolism prevalent during the 13th and 14th centuries.
This next part, it says the rose also became a symbol for the Rosicrucians. Rosicrucian that we talked about back in episode 24 for the Owens family grimoire.
Yeah.
So they became a symbol for the Rosicrucians and the alchemists. The crucified rose became the sign of the Rosicrucians, while alchemists spoke of the resurrection of the rose as an allegory for the soul's transformation from the worldly to the divine. I was like, what?
Yeah. But yeah, alchemists, they were seeking the, what is it called? The fountain of youth or the eternal life.
I know they were trying to turn
immortality.
Like, material into gold.
Yeah. And that would in turn, that had something to do with the philosopher's stone, which in turn had a connection to immortality. These alchemists were in search of immortality.
Why?
They wanted to live forever. They wanted eternal youth. I'm just observing other connections, which is just really fascinating to me. So we're going to talk about rose in love, heraldry, and magic. So the rose, with its multifaceted symbolism, transcends mere associations with love and beauty. Its significance has evolved over time and across cultures. Originally, the Germanic peoples linked the rose to death, while Christians embraced it as a symbol of religious devotion. However, it was through encounters with the Orient that the rose came to represent worldly love in Europe. Despite its relatively late introduction, the rose swiftly gained widespread recognition and became deeply ingrained in European culture. During the medieval period, the rose took center stage in literary works like the famous Romance of the Rose, emphasizing its prominence as a symbol of love. Geoffrey Chaucer's depiction of a beautiful maiden in the Garden of Love further solidified the rose's association with worthiness and adoration. In this garden, the god of love himself wore a crown of roses, reinforcing their connection to romantic pursuits. So I guess the medieval period is what made it such a romantic flower. With Shakespeare, he's such a romantic writer of that era. The rose's symbolism extends beyond matters of the heart. In ancient Greece, the god Eros purportedly bribed the god of silence with a rose to maintain secrecy among the gods.
Roses keeping secrets again.
Keeping secrets.
Keeping secrets, keeping it safe.
Thus, the rose became an emblem of confidentiality. With its image often displayed on the ceilings of council chambers to signify that all present were bound to secrecy.
Oh my god! What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Wow.
Notably, the rose held significance in heraldry. When King Edward III established the Order of the Garter, knights were required to wear roses as part of the regalia on St. George's Day. This tradition continues to this day, with the wearing of roses on that occasion. Moreover, following the War of the Roses, the rose became an emblematic flower in England, with different variations representing qualities such as mercy, justice, beauty, and nobility. And the rose's symbolic associations were not limited to positive attributes. Superstitions emerged, linking red roses to impending death, particularly sudden demise.
Dude.
Jimmy!
Back to back. I'm just highlighting all this shit.
Jimmy! Particular sudden demise.
Jimmy boy.
Jimmy boy. Conversely, due to the belief that the blood of Christ had touched red roses, witches and devils were said to fear them. Is that why they cut them down?
I don't think so.
In the movie, they knew some shit was up. If red roses are springing out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
In the realm of magic, roses found their place primarily in love potions. Persian women utilized rose water for this purpose, while women in colonial America created, quote, rose tipple. I've never heard of rose tipple, but you can create this by steeping rose petals in brandy.
Ooh, brandy.
Brandy. Legends like that of Tristan and you were telling me about this, Isolde. You're saying that I still need to watch this movie. Is this on Netflix? Where can I
don't
find
know if it's on Netflix anymore. James Franco's in it. It's
Oh,
pretty
okay. All right. This suggests that their famed love potion contained roses as well. However, the roses' magical uses were generally confined to love-related spells and remedies. Practical applications of the rose extended to the realm of cosmetics. Dioscorides, an ancient Greek physician, recommended the use of rose pomanders to mask unpleasant odors. This practice continued through centuries, with individuals crafting rose necklaces to retain fragrance. Additionally, the renowned physician Galen incorporated rose oil into the precursor of modern cold creams using substantial amounts in his formulations. And I don't know if this says anywhere down here, but I think I've heard this somewhere before. That is why the rose and the lily became the funeral flower, because they would mask the scent of the death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can totally
flower.
see that.
Yeah. So after the decline of the Roman Empire, rose cosmetics experienced a lull until the Crusaders reintroduced rose water to Europe. Bathing in rose water became fashionable, and finger bowls filled with rose water graced the tables of those aspiring to refinement. These finger bowls gained significance as forks were not yet commonplace, and cleaning the mouth with rose water after meals became a customary practice. So it seems like the Crusaders invented mouthwash.
Yeah, really. Good on you guys.
Was, right?
Basically destroyed everything else, but whatever.
Yeah. At least they gave us something.
Yeah.
So the most significant practical application of the rose throughout history was undoubtedly its role in medicine. Ancient authorities such as Dioscorides, the father of pharmacognosy, was a Greek physician. Galen, a Roman Greek physician, surgeon, and philosopher. Avicenna was a polymath who is regarded as one of the most significant physicians, astronomers, philosophers, and writers of the Islamic Golden Age, attributed cooling and binding properties to roses. Dude, is that why they call them Renaissance? Like nowadays, a master of all or a jack of all trades, they refer to them as Renaissance men. You're a Renaissance man or a Renaissance woman.
Right.
Because
you're on the cutting edge of thought, of invention, of science.
Well, that's what I'm getting as, like, all of these people all these Renaissance era people, they were not just one thing. They did a bunch of things. Like, not only was he a physician, he is also a philosopher, an astronomer, this and that. Like,
he's got a solid resume.
That's a true definition of a Renaissance man or woman, like a jack of all trades, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like, you have a lot of different tools under your belt. They were employed to alleviate fever, inflammation, pain, excessive flows of various kinds, ranging from tears to diarrhea and hemorrhages.
Oh my God.
Rose-based remedies including eye salves, teas for diarrhea, and wine compresses for inflammation and wounds. Historical texts and translations from various eras attest to the enduring medicinal use of roses. Theophrastus, an ancient Greek philosopher, noted that rose perfume produced with the inclusion of salt possessed antiseptic properties beneficial in reducing swelling and inflammation. Avicenna, an influential Persian physician, prescribed rose water as a remedy for eye ailments and as a coolant for the liver and heart. Furthermore, rose syrup was used to treat digestive disorders and ease constipation. The practicality of roses extended to their cultivation for the production of cosmetics and perfumes. Rose petals were pressed for their essential oil, which found its way into a variety of fragrances, including rose water and rose oil. The rose's captivating scent made it a highly sought-after ingredient in perfumery, and its cultivation became an industry in its own right. Throughout history, roses have been valued for their diverse uses and medicinal properties. Early medieval Danish and German herbal glossaries compiled by Fisher in 1929 followed the teachings of Dioscorides and added their own insights. They mentioned the use of rose seeds for chest troubles and rose leaves for lung troubles. Additionally, these works introduced the use of rose galls. Oh, so we apparently we talked about this in another episode, but you couldn't find what episode we were talking about these in?
Couldn't find it, but
All
galls are the wounds on a plant or a tree that an insect has inhabited and laid its eggs in. So I guess they can also do that to roses.
Got
They
it.
form like a tumor, like a visual growth on the outside.
Was that the placenta episode? Because we were also talking about the placenta like hanging from the trees, and I don't know if that had anything to
I
do.
have no idea. I even typed it in, couldn't find it in our search word search.
Okay. All right. After influential pharmacological work, the Seka Instance, which is a book, was a standard reference from the 1200s until after the time of Paracelsus. While its actual authorship remains unclear, it originated in Salerno, Italy, the medical capital of Europe at that time. In the Seka Instance, the rose was discussed under anthera, a plant having an anther, and the term bedigar, which is a gall-like mass produced on rose bushes by a gall wasp.
Those gulls we were just talking about.
Yeah. Seem to refer to Crataegus, a hawthorn species. The hawthorn tree. Shit. Notably, it was believed that rose tea could staunch bleeding after tooth extraction. You know what else is really good for gums and teeth health?
What?
Clove oil. Clove oil is
Can
really
you make
good.
your own like infused oil with cloves? Or does it have to be like the distillation of the clove?
Probably the distills.
Got it.
I mean, I would imagine any kind of clove, anything. If you're infusing like an oil with cloves yourself, that could probably also help.
Does it do like a tingly numbing kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess
That's what
it's
I feel
like
it
the
would
same
do.
of like rubbing like a rum or something on your gums.
Ooh,
I know
okay.
I know that's like an old wives' tale. Like they would rub rum or some kind of alcohol on like a baby's gums to keep them from teething, but
To help with the pain and kind
to
of numb
help
it a
with
little
the
bit.
pain. Yeah, but I would not go rubbing alcohol on my baby's gums, just saying. So Rufinus, in his herbal written in the late 1200s, and attributed classical applications of rose medicines and recommended their use for counteracting heartburn and vomiting due to cholera, which is yellow bile. Gross. He specified that rosebuds and dry roses were used in medicine while mature ones were deemed useless. Additionally, he noted that rose oil made in a glass vessel heated in a water bath was considered beneficial, while rose oil cooked directly above a flame did not receive the same epithet.
I'm wondering if it's cooking all of the nutrients out of it, basically.
Yeah. Well, they do say that you're not supposed to put essential oils on under a direct flame. It actually ruins the petrochemicals in the oil, and it breaks down the compounds, which in turn destroys the benefits of the actual oil.
Right,
so you
right,
are
right.
not supposed to heat oil, which, to answer your question before, maybe that is why you're supposed to use the distilled oil to get the full benefits.
It's more concentrated.
Yeah, way more concentrated, which is why you're only supposed to use like 1 or 2 drops of essential oil, if that, for anything that you're using it for. As opposed to like an infused oil, like you could probably use an infused oil a little more generously. So, according to Rufinus, dry roses had a strengthening effect on the brain and the heart, as well as restoring the spirit. He also quoted Alexander, making a distinction between red roses, which were considered more strengthening than astringent, and white roses, which were regarded as astringent rather than strengthening. Albertus Magnus listed various properties of Arcanina, which is the dog rose. For example, a preparation of the seeds was said to stop diarrhea in infants caused by corruptions affecting muscle motion, while a soup made from the rose's juice, which we say before, what is rose soup? Soup juice was believed to alleviate toothache. The root was reputed to halt body sputum, diarrhea due to debilitated stomach, and obstruction.
Stop. Body sputum? Like your body just like you're vomiting and pooping and peeing, and is that what sputum is?
That's what I'm guessing.
Sputum.
That's what I'm guessing. So diarrhea due to debilitated stomach and obstructions, and the rose was considered particularly effective in stomachic treatment. Furthermore, it was believed to combat long-lasting phlegmatic fevers and attract the venom of scorpion bites when chewed and applied. Drinking a preparation of the seed was believed to help against reptile bites and other ailments. Albertus Magnus concluded by stating that roses in general have opening properties and can alleviate the tenesmus of cholera, while emphasizing their overall comforting effect on the interior organs as determined by medical professionals. The rose's popularity continued to soar, earning it the status of a wonder drug. Hagendorn, that sounds like a Harry Potter character.
Yeah.
Hagendorn, as mentioned by Jort in 1892, recommended the rose for various ailments, including epilepsy, tuberculosis, goiter, gout, and other common illnesses.
Do your research, guys.
Yeah.
Like this is bananas.
Bananas.
Speaking of medical uses, we're going to transition into, I think, a more recent, use of roses. And this is from the magicalspot.com. And they say that the best roses for medicinal use are fragrant and deep red or cabbage roses. What's a cabbage rose?
I don't know. They think they look like little cabbages.
Oh, okay. So they say a tincture is used for weak stomach and for hemorrhaging. 1 pint boiling water to 1 ounce of rose petals. Add 15 drops of oil of vitriol and half a cup of sugar. Stir until the sugar is dissolved and the mixture is nice and red. Strain. Take 3 or 4 spoonfuls daily. What's vitriol?
I have no
I'm asking you all these questions.
Oil of vitriol.
Rose flavored honey is good for coughs and sore throat. Rose honey can be made by pounding the fresh petals and boiling them with honey. Rose vinegar is good for headaches caused by being out in the sun for too long. Steep the petals in vinegar for several days, but don't boil. Apply a cloth wetted with vinegar to your forehead. Rose water ointment is good for chapped skin and abrasions, while rose hips, the fruit of the rose, are rich in vitamin C and can be added to healing teas or make a delicious syrup to help the body fight infections.
So the oil of vitriol is actually just another name for sulfuric acid.
Oh.
So that's the traditional name, is oil of vitriol. So it's a nasty corrosive liquid, making vitrolic an apt term for virulent language. At first, it may seem odd that the term vitriol derives from the Latin meaning glass, since glass is an inert material. And there's a whole page dedicated to the origins of vitriol.
Why would you put that on your skin? Weak stomach or hemorrhaging. Add 15 drops of oil of vitriol and a pint of boiling water and 1 ounce of rose petals. I don't know about that one.
Yeah, that's weird. It's a rabbit hole. We'll link some stuff on oil of vitriol if you guys want to do a little deeper digging on this stuff.
Again, we're not doctors. Some other benefits are for skin health. Rose water and rose oil can help soothe and hydrate the skin, reducing redness and promote a youthful complexion. It can be used for emotional well-being. The scent of roses is known to have a calming and uplifting effect on the mind and helping reduce stress or improve the mood. Unless you're me, and then you have a full emotional breakdown about funerals and grief and...
Oh, no.
It's all right.
Well, I mean, I guess anything that, it doesn't matter if that object is historically known to have like good standing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, like, what did we talk about during the rabbits episode? Remember how like that those kids in that experiment were triggered by fluffy bunnies and rabbits?
Right.
The little Albert experiment. I guess if like you already have like an emotional aversion to an object, no matter what it is, it's going to trigger you regardless of whether or not it's supposed to be.
Even like a fear of clowns, you know, it's all about your history with that thing.
It's all about that base.
No trouble. It can be beneficial for digestive support. Rose tea or infused water can aid in digestion, relieving bloating, and it can have a mild laxative effect. So be aware of that. It also has a benefit of boosting your immune system. Roses are rich in vitamin C and antioxidants and can support the immune system and protect against cellular damage. It also has anti-inflammatory properties. Rose extracts may have anti-inflammatory effects, helping to reduce inflammation and ease symptoms in certain conditions. So we also have rose in beauty and skincare. Our next article is by Maggie Connolly, and this was written in 2019, and it is 5 major skincare benefits of roses, and this is off of skininc.com. And they say, wake up and smell the roses. Literally, we're saying to opt for roses on your face instead of roses in your vase, because they can bring numerous benefits to the skin, more specifically rose water, a combination of filtered water and rose oil found in the petals. Rosehip oil and rose essential oil can provide a soothing and anti-inflammatory benefit to the skin. Whether in the form of a cleanser, toner, moisturizer, or serum, this ingredient can be equally beneficial to all skin types. So, their first benefit listed is an antioxidant powerhouse. This is one of the major benefits that roses and rose water can bring to the skin. We all know that antioxidants are good for the skin, and the ones found in roses are no exception. These particular antioxidants help to strengthen skin cells, which in turn can help regenerate skin tissue. On top of this, the antioxidants in roses work to neutralize free radicals, which can provide anti-aging benefits to the skin as well. The second one is a healing hydrator. While roses are great for all skin types, it is especially great for dry skin due to its extremely moisturizing properties that can help soothe itchiness. Roses used in the form of an essential oil can also be a great way to moisturize the skin while protecting it from moisture loss and keeping the moisture barrier strong. Even for those who do not suffer from dry skin, the hydration that roses provide can be extremely beneficial as it helps to balance the hydration of the skin. Number 3, it's a wrinkle eraser. Besides being filled with antioxidants, rose water and rose oil are packed with vitamin A and C, which can help with aging skins. Apart from smoothing the appearance of wrinkles, these vitamins help to reduce the look of age spots on the skin and aid with collagen production. While rose essential oil and rose water are both derived from rose petals, rosehip seed oil is actually from the small fruits that appear on the rose plants, which are a natural source of retinol.
I have a account with Hand and Stone. It's a massage parlor, but they also do facials. And one of the estheticians that did my facial one time was telling me to get rosehip oil.
That sounds really nice. I want to start
Right?
using that. That would be
Yeah.
nice with like a gua sha or whatever. You put the
Yeah, one of
oil
those
on and then like,
rose quartz stones, those
oh,
rollers.
yeah.
Oh, it's been so long since I'm overdue for a facial.
Get on it, man.
Facial. Yeah, I got so many packages
Treat
just like
yourself.
piling up. I gotta use them. So yeah,
I'll take one.
you can have one.
So, number 4 is a redness soother. As previously mentioned, this romantic ingredient has tons of anti inflammatory benefits, which can help reduce the appearance of redness on the skin. Part of its moisturizing properties also aid in soothing redness and irritation in the skin as well. Back to rosehip oil. Apart from being great for anti-aging, the combination of antioxidants and fatty acids in rosehip oil make it beneficial for soothing skin inflammation, including eczema. Which is interesting because, like, usually with roses, you think of a red rose, and it's almost like fighting fire with fire. Like the colorant is like neutral, like a negative and a negative. The red versus the red, it cancels each other out.
You're so funny. You're like how your brain works because you say the same thing about your husband and his astrology chart. You're like, he's a double Aries, so it must cancel him out. Like your reasoning is hysterical.
Whatever.
But yeah, so going back to my esthetician, she was like, what do you use on your face? Like as a moisturizer. I was like, well, coconut oil. She's like, no. Rosehip oil. That's what she suggested. So.
I really want to get some. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Did you also tell her about your SPF, like not using SPF ever?
No, I use SPF now. I'm just very lazy with it. So I was like, what kind of SPF should I be using for my skin? She was like, well, at least like a 40 plus. I'm use that. I'm like, well, I have the foundation that I use has like 15 in it. She's like, oh, that's not enough. That is not enough. So then I asked her, I was like, well, what if I put like a 15, well, because my foundation has 15 SPF. So I was like, so what if I put like on like an SPF like 25 lotion on top of the foundation? She's like, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You can't double up on, yeah. The one that I have now, I use the face lotion from Trader Joe's and it has SPF in it. I think it's got like 20 something. It might have 30 something. I don't even know. But I don't like those, like, some of them feel really greasy, like SPF lotions.
Remember like a couple months ago whenever I'd Marco you, my face would be like a high beam. So shiny. Like, I just put SPF on. I don't use like powder or foundation or anything. I would just put the it's a moisturizer with the SPF in it. Yeah. And I'm like, why the fuck is my skin so shiny? And then I started putting
so greasy. They can be really greasy.
Yeah.
So the one from Trader Joe's that I use, it's very like no residue. And it doesn't leave that like nasty, like greasy sheen on your face. Like my skin feels very dry right now, and I put it on after the shower. Even though I know it's not the recommended amount that my esthetician recommended, it's still what I use. So.
Recommended amount. How much did she tell you to use?
No, and not like the
Oh,
amount,
the
like
SPF limit.
yeah, the SPF number. Yeah. Yeah. So it is what it is, whatever.
All right, number 5 is an oil reducer. When it comes to moisturizing the skin, rose water helps to balance out moisture, meaning it can help to control excess oil production. I need that. With this ingredient being so deeply hydrating, it increases water content in the skin as opposed to the level of oils. There are also astringent properties in rose that help to lift dirt and oil from the skin to help it maintain its natural pH balance.
Did you see that new TikTok filter that's hot right now, like the aging one?
Yeah, dude, I look hardcore like my aunts.
I
So
look
weird.
Me too. I don't even look like my mom. I'm like, oh, I look like my Aunt Linda right now. What
It
the
makes me
hell?
like sad. I'm like, oh my God, like I love them so much. I'm like, you're so pretty. And then I'm like, oh my God, I have the genes of my family are strong with me.
Yeah, and I've been seeing like estheticians weighing in on this new filter, and they're
Yeah.
like, this is actually pretty accurate. And I'm just like, no, I cannot look like this.
Should we post our elderly photos? I would.
Oh my God, no, I'm so embarrassed.
Not
I
with
guess
not with
yeah.
your bucket load of facials you're gonna get yourself. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I hope. Well, yeah, if I actually go, I need to make my appointment.
The next article, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, we could. Yeah, I'll take it. So what types of roses are used in skincare? Because there, as we've come to know, there are so many different varieties of roses, but there are only actually, I think two that might be used in skincare. So this article is from herbaldynamicsbeauty.com. And the name of this article is What Types of Roses Are Used in Skincare? So rose essential oil is typically formulated through steam distillation, and the most common type used in skincare is from the damask rose. The scientific name is Rosa damaskina. Damask roses are so potent with antimicrobial and anti-aging compounds that they are even effective against highly dangerous bacteria like E. coli and staph infections. Bacteria that can resist even the strongest of pharmaceutical antibiotics. This power makes damask roses excellent for wound healing. It takes tens of thousands of rose petals to produce a single ounce of rose essential oil, which makes it so concentrated that only a few drops are required to see its benefits. Rosa centifolia is another common variety used in beauty, commonly called the cabbage rose. Did we talk about the
We
cabbage
did.
rose
I was like, what the
earlier?
hell is that?
Yeah.
Cool.
So there it is. So this variety is high in vitamin C and tannins, offering toning and antioxidant benefits, perfect for preventing signs of aging. You may also see black rose, baby rose, French rose, and even alpine rose, although those are more rare. All varieties contain antioxidant and anti-aging actives that lend themselves to beautifying the skin. So I kind of wanted to deep dive on the price of rose essential oil real quick because I've used rose essential oil before. It's so expensive. I was curious because doTERRA actually makes a rose oil, and I was fortunate enough, I actually won the bottle of the rose oil that I have. And the rose oil I have is the touch oil, which means that it's diluted with the fractionated coconut oil.
Okay.
It's not even like the neat oil.
Okay.
So it is a bit cheaper than the straight oil, but it is still very expensive.
Okay.
So just to give you some context, a 5 milliliter bottle of straight rose oil from doTERRA retails for $366.67.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That is insane.
Right? And like, like a little 5 milliliter bottle, like that big. And then a 10 milliliter bottle, which is this size, this is the touch, which has the fractionated coconut oil in it. This is still $94.67.
You just like never use it. I would never even
I
crack
use
that
it for
thing open.
very special occasions.
Wow.
And when you do use it, you don't need that much. So I was wondering, like, why is this so expensive to make and to purchase for, any usage? So the price is insane because the process to make just 1 tablespoon is insane. It takes about 60,000 roses to make 1 ounce of rose oil.
Damn.
So that's a lot of roses, which are already an expensive flower to begin with. Have you ever like bought flowers on like Valentine's
Right.
Day or
Yep.
like they're just like so expensive. So this article is from acalminghome.com. So this says, unlike some essential oils where you can distill all plant parts like twigs, leaves, or bark, rose essential oils are only made from its fragrant petals. So it takes 10,000 pounds of rose petals to produce 1 pound of rose
Oh
essential
my
oil.
God.
Isn't that nuts? It's so many.
10,000 pounds to make
Yeah.
1 pound? Is that what it said?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that ratio was just that blows my mind.
Mhm.
So roses have a naturally low oil content. The rose plant doesn't really release essential oil as easily and as abundantly as other plants such as citruses. So like have you ever noticed like when you like are eating an orange and you like bend the skin a little bit, like a little like essence just kind of squirts out at you?
Yeah.
Yeah, roses don't have that kind of oil. Like citrus is very abundant in oil. But the rose petals have to be distilled for a long time before they are ready to express their essential oil. This means that a lot of water, energy, and labor is needed for this process. And this blog has an entire list of 12 different reasons rose essential oils is so expensive. The article's kind of long, so I just kind of like picked out these parts that I thought were interesting, but we will link this in our show notes on our hero page if anyone is interested in reading the whole thing and deep diving a little more on, just the insane price of rose essential oil.
Hey, remember when I was like, use rose oil with your gua sha? Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, the one that I have, like I said, the roller bottle from doTERRA is like about this size and it's diluted with the fractionated coconut oil, so it actually covers a surface area a lot better than if you were to use like the neat oil. The fractionated coconut oil is a really nice it moisturizes the skin because essential oils are very potent. So you don't really want to use them by themselves. You want to use some kind of carrier. And doTERRA makes it really nice because they like add it in there with the little roller bottle, so it's nice application. So I added a couple links here if you guys want to go check out the rose oil for yourself.
Oh my God.
Just letting you know it's very expensive. I won my bottle because I ain't dishing out $100 to $300 for this little 5 to 10 milliliter bottle. It's just
Damn.
crazy. I don't have that kind of
Just go rub the petals on your face.
Yeah. Or you could do that. Or like you can infuse like an olive oil or fractionated coconut oil with petals that you've like steamed or, taken all of the I guess essences out of the petals. And if you have a rose bush in your backyard, it's a great way to make use of those petals. But you can use any kind of rose in any kind of regimen, any kind of recipe, whether it's for your body, your face, or whether you're ingesting any kind of culinary treat.
So speaking of putting roses into your body, like in a tea, there are other culinary uses and recipes we want to share with you. And this is from Moon and Spoon and Yum.com. The leaves, buds, hips, and petals of roses are entirely edible. However, for the purpose of ingesting, it is best to ensure you use roses that have not been treated, or sprayed with toxic fertilizers, insecticides, and the like. You can grow your own organic roses to ensure that they are healthy and safe, or you can purchase edible roses. When purchasing, they recommend looking for organic, culinary grade, food grade, or edible. They'll be labeled that way, rose petals and rose buds. Quality is key when enjoying edible flowers. So these are a few recipes that are, I guess, on this website, right?
Yeah,
Rose
she has
recipe.
like a really nice list there. We will link this whole list in our show notes. But you have to go to each individual link to get the recipe because I'm pretty sure she kind of curated this list from different blogs across the internet. So these aren't all her recipes. I'm pretty sure this is a curated list.
All right, so we'll just run down this list really quick. So they have on this site, there's a recipe for rose and cardamom cupcakes by Michelle Gerard Marriott, rose chocolate ganache tart from My Tiny Laguna Kitchen, rose petal jam from Simply Beyond Herbs, a rose lassi, which is rose flavored yogurt.
That's a Indian drink.
Oh,
Avi told me about it. Like he loves lassi. He likes mango lassi. I've never seen a rose lassi, but that sounds really, really good.
It does sound good. This is
Yeah.
from they brought to you by Flavored Treats. And then there is a vegan almond rose chai tea latte, rose petal shortbread cookies, gluten-free from One Hot Oven. They have a charcoal latte with ginger and rose that's vegan. There is a recipe for mint and rose lollipops from Veggie Desserts. Rose ice cream. They say this ice cream is a delicious treat that's delicately flavored with rose water and vanilla. A simple recipe that can be easily made in your ice cream maker. There's a recipe for rose milk with homemade rose syrup plus gulkand. What's
I've
that?
never heard of that. I have no idea what that is. Gulkand is a sweet preserve of rose petals originating in the Indian subcontinent.
Whoa.
So it looks like there's quite a few Indian recipes on here. I guess they use a lot of rose in that culture.
Yeah, it sounds like it. There's a few other Indian dishes down here also that I will use your help.
Okay.
So they have a gluten-free Persian love cake, rose petal and coconut barfi from the Winged Fork, rose milk tea, the rose tea latte recipe. I guess they also have a video from Flavors Treats, a mahabai, which is a Middle Eastern milk pudding dessert from Little Sunny Kitchen, rose petals and sugar from an Electric Blue Food, Thunday recipe in Charday. And there's a video and a step-by-step photo recipe on this site from Veg Recipes of India. And it's an easy Thandi recipe, also known as Charday. Oh, man.
Charday? I don't know. I've never heard of this one.
It's for the Holi festival. And the Thande is a traditional drink from North India made with nuts, seeds, and spices. There is rose syrup recipes, and that's from Tin and Time, rose lemonade, pink moon milk. That sounds so good.
Yeah.
Which they label as a dreamy sleep tonic from Heartbeat Kitchen, and a vanilla rose moon milk.
I actually did a pink rose strawberry moon milk, I think for the strawberry moon a couple years ago. That one's up on my YouTube channel if anybody wants to go check that out.
All right. I think we're ready for a short break. When we come back, we're going to go through roses in pop culture, world symbolism, magic, and some rose superstitions, including the Victorian language of flowers. So stick around,
here we go.
And we'll be right back. Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to the Magnolia Street Podcast. Welcome back. We're gonna do pop culture. Dude, I've never seen American Beauty. I just remember isn't it, she's like laying in roses and she's naked.
Well, that's
like the cover.
DVD cover, right?
That's all I know.
I think there is like one shot in the film that has that scene.
Okay.
I don't remember. But it's a great movie. It's like very dark. It's like dark comedy. I don't want to say it's like dark comedy, like haha funny. Kevin Spacey's character, he's just having like this like midlife crisis, and it's just like funny, like the stuff that he just has to deal with. Like,
oh God. Okay.
His wife is a neurotic psychopath.
Do we still like Kevin Spacey? Didn't he get in trouble?
Yeah, I think he did.
Okay. All right. Well, tell me what roses have to do in that
with
movie.
American Beauty?
Yeah.
All right. So it says, it's hard to watch American Beauty and not stare in awe at the use of roses throughout the film. It fills the bathtubs, it's on the coffee table, growing outside of the house. Initially, it appears as though roses represent love, lust, and passion. While that may be true, the rose has been said to hold a deeper meaning in the film. Based on the tagline, quote, "Look closer," end quote, it's believed that roses symbolize the decay of American suburban life. As the film's main and married character, Lester Burnham, played by Kevin Spacey, begins to fantasize about being with his daughter's best friend. The roses used for the film were chosen specifically because they are susceptible to rot, mirroring the family that began pure and whole but is now falling apart.
Oh, scandalous.
It is a very scandalous film, but I just love how it's shot, and the rose motif throughout the film is pretty fascinating. And it's got Mina Suvari and Thora Birch, and Mina Suvari plays Thora Birch's best friend. The next one is Citizen Kane, and I don't think I ever saw this one, but this is supposedly this one's tagged as one of the greatest movies of all time.
It's like the masterclass of movies. Right. I haven't seen it either. I really want to see it.
Movie list, watch list.
Put
it on the watch list.
All right.
So about this film, so we learn at the end of the film that Kane's dying word rosebud is not actually a rose at all. And like, I'm sorry to spoil this for anyone. I'm not even spoiling this for myself because I actually learned about this in, I think, high school. We covered this movie. We might have even watched it. I don't remember. I don't pay much attention in that
Okay.
class. But yeah, so Kane's dying word, rosebud, is not actually a rose at all, but the name of his favorite childhood sled. And it's said that the sled represents simplicity, warmth, and his mother's love. Sledding as a child in Colorado was the last time he was truly happy, which was why he wanted to be buried with Rosebud.
That is very deep.
Right? And that's a really old movie.
Black and white.
All right, so the next one is Beauty and the Beast. And we've all seen that the rose in that one, right? So the enchanted rose quickly became the trademark symbol of the Beauty and the Beast film after viewers were captivated by its beauty and purpose. The rose represents fate and physical beauty, as the beast, originally a human, is turned into a monster after rejecting an elderly woman in need. The tale said that if the beast did not learn to love someone else before the last petal fell on his 21st birthday, he would remain like that forever. Dude, the beast was 21?
Yeah, wasn't it like he was turned like 11 years ago or something like that? So he was like a child when this old woman showed up at the door.
Yeah, what? So
yeah, and it was like, "Oh, can I come in or whatever?" And he's like, "No." Like, that's just something like an 11-year-old kid would probably do. Don't let strangers in your house.
That's somebody that everybody nowadays should do. Yeah, don't let strangers in your house.
Don't come knocking on my door.
Yeah, but I remember as like a kid, like you're watching these characters and you're not thinking like they're young. They all seem just like a lot older, or at least that's what it was implied to me anyway. I was like, I thought
because they're making a lot of like adult decisions.
Yeah. But he was
Yep.
21. What? All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the next movie is V for Vendetta. So in this complicated futuristic thriller, antagonist and vigilante V is the only person able to cultivate roses that were thought to be extinct. Though he leaves these roses next to the men and women he has killed, he initially cares and tends to them almost as if they are his children, representing both destruction and prosperity. In the end, all he hopes for is that, quote, the world turns and that things get better and that one day people have roses again, end quote. Did you ever see that movie? Isn't
I
that
love
with
that
Natalie
movie.
Portman?
Yeah, I really like that movie. There was an older version too, which I have not seen.
Is that the one that's like, remember, remember the 5th of November?
Exactly. And I think that's why he's called V, is because the V is the number 5, the 5th of November.
Oh, the 5th of November.
Do you remember Guy
Now,
Fawkes Days, the 5th of November?
It all makes sense now. Yeah, that's a really good movie. Very dark. Didn't she shave her head for that movie?
I just like his like tie-in that he has with the Count of Monte Cristo. His like
Oh, wait.
obsession with him.
I don't remember much about his character. So he has an obsession with the Count of Monte Cristo?
The vengeance part, you know what I mean?
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever see that movie, The Count of Monte Cristo?
Yeah, there's an old version of that too, which is not
that
nearly
the
as
one
good.
with Antonio Banderas?
No, it's that's not him. I don't remember.
It's not him?
The guy who played Jesus.
I don't remember.
We're getting off topic.
Okay. Next movie, Alice in Wonderland. So when the cards accidentally plant white roses instead of red, they fear incurring the wrath of the Queen of Hearts, who only liked red roses. As they paint, they famously sing, "We're painting the roses red. We dare not stop or waste a drop, so let the paint be spread." It is believed that the white roses represent purity, innocence, and serenity, kind of like what we were talking about when we were, discussing the whole Almas Veritas love spell, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Alice's life prior to falling down the rabbit hole. Oh, okay, so it's saying that the roses represent her life, which was prior to falling down the rabbit hole. Everything was pure and innocent, but once she enters Wonderland, she was forced to mature and enter into adulthood.
How satisfying is that scene though, when they're like slapping the paint on the white roses and it just covers it perfectly?
Yeah, and I'm just like, well, that's just gonna kill the roses, isn't it? It's not gonna paint them red, it's just gonna kill them. It's like painting your skin with acrylic paint, which is something that I've stupidly done in the past. No, I mean, I painted my entire upper body for Halloween because I didn't have.
Oh, oh no! Were you very ill, or did you feel okay?
I wasn't ill, but I did like get dizzy.
Yeah.
At some point in the night, and I was like, I should probably wash this off.
What color was it?
I was Miss Argentina from Beetlejuice.
Oh,
And
green?
this, yeah, it was like that teal, like aquamarine kind of seafoam green.
Was it just like craft paint? It wasn't even body paint?
No, it was craft paint.
Oh my God.
I didn't have body paint, so I just
Girl.
used craft paint. And
We all make mistakes. This is how we learn. It's how we
this
learn.
was like back in 2010.
You were a youngster.
I was a little younger, a little stupider, and
I'm sure you look great.
oh, my costume was sick. I will show you a picture of this costume. Yeah, Avi was Beetlejuice, and it was probably one of our best costumes to date. So The Little Prince is the last one on this list, and this says, this popular novella has quickly become the fourth most translated book in the world. After a pilot becomes stranded in the desert, he comes across a young prince who fell to the earth from a tiny asteroid. The book features watercolor illustrations done by author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. One of the most famous illustrations is of the little prince lying in a field of 1,000 roses. It's said that the roses represent all of the past choices, friendships, and loves that he left behind on the asteroid. We see that these roses resemble the one the little prince used to have on his planet. That was the flower he watered, nourished, and cared for. In the words of the fox, he, quote, tamed her, and, quote, for what you have tamed, you have become responsible for.
Oh.
That's the last one on this list. This article is actually from 1-800-Flowers.com.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and the author is Tara Carlson, and she graduated from Hofstra University with a degree in public relations and loves any and all things creative writing, which is why she is thrilled to be working with Petal Talk. And Petal Talk, that must be like their blog, their like rose or
Cute.
flower blog on 1-800-Flowers.
I'm sure there are tons of other movies where like roses are a motif. All right, we're ready to dip our toes into the magic and folklore. This is from themagicalspot.com, and this is rose symbolism from around the world. So in ancient Greece, the symbolic meaning is associated with Aphrodite. She's the goddess of love and beauty. Christianity, it's associated with the Virgin Mary and the divine love of God, which we talked about. In the Victorian era, it symbolized the sentiments and hidden messages through the language of flowers, which didn't we talk about hidden messages in another?
Yeah.
What was that?
Was
that Magnolia?
Yeah, I think it was Magnolia.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a little more about the Victorian language down below, so we'll see if that matches up with Magical Blogspot. In the Islamic culture, they're connected with spiritual beauty and paradise. In the Chinese culture, it's associated with luck, abundance, and prosperity. And in Japan, it's connected to grace, gratitude, and eternal love. And for the next little bit, there are a couple different sources we found. One is from Discovering the Folklore of Plants. Another is Plant Lore and Legends. And another one is Garden Spells, the Magic of Herbs. So we kind of just clumped all these together so it would flow a little nicer. So the rose has a rich history dating back to ancient civilizations. Originating in Persia, it made its way to Egypt, where it adorned tomb paintings and personal belongings. The Chinese also recognized its value, extracting oil from roses found in the emperor's garden, a luxury reserved for nobles. In Sumeria, a seal from 3300 BC featured a stylized rose as a symbol of the goddess Inanna. You know what, real quick, let me go back to like the movies. Do you remember you and I talked about The Thief of Baghdad? Long time ago, but you said you had seen the old Thief of Baghdad, and their thing is also they're in the search for the blue rose. The advisor is also in love with the princess, and he tries to give her the rose to heal her, but it just like withers and dies. And then Karim is like the main guy, and he finds the blue rose. He goes through all these like Herculean tests, basically.
Okay.
Great movie. Handsome lead actor. That's all I'll say about it. Oh, all right. So the Hanging Gardens of Babylonia boasted the presence of roses as well. In Egypt, roses were believed to possess magical properties and were used by embalmers during the mummification process. The rose held special significance for the goddess Isis, and roses were included in funeral wreaths to symbolize the successful journey of the deceased through the Hall of Judgment. Cleopatra famously adorned her palace floors with rose petals during her pursuit of Mark Antony. Greek mythology also embraced the rose, attributing its origins to sea foam dripping off of Aphrodite as she was born. White roses represented her innocence, while red roses symbolized passion arising from her attempts to heal the wounded Adonis. During the wedding of Eros and Psyche, rose petals were scattered by the seasons and charities as a joyful celebration. In Roman mythology, the rose was associated with Flora, the goddess of spring. When her beloved nymph passed away, Flora pleaded with the other gods to transform her into a beautiful flower. With contribution from Apollo, Bacchus, Vertumnus, Panoma, and Flora, the nymph became the rose, considered the queen of all flowers. It is said that Flora, struck by Cupid's arrow, mistakenly pronounced Eros as rose, thus giving the flower its name.
Oh.
Cupid himself is connected to the rose in various tales. One story tells of a rose bush growing from a spilled bowl of wine dedicated to his mother Venus. In another version, Cupid accidentally stained white roses with red wine, forever marking them with color. The story surrounding the rose showcases its enduring symbolism representing love, beauty, and divine connections throughout history. Another origin story involving Flora depicts Zephyrus, the god of the west wind, falling in love with her. Desperate to catch her attention, he transformed himself into a rose. Flora, being captivated by flowers, kissed the rose, bringing joy to Zephyrus, but revealing the Roman god disregard for boundaries. Yeah, what the fuck? The Romans held deep affection for roses, adorning their floors with rose petals and crowning grooms and brides with rose crowns. Public rose gardens were created by the nobility, showcasing their love for these blossoms. However, not all stories associated with roses were pleasant. Rhodanthe, who attempted to usurp Diana as the goddess of the hunt, was transformed into a rose by Apollo as punishment. In another tale, the beautiful maiden Rhodanthe sought... Okay, see, Rhodanthe in my mind is like a male name.
Yeah,
but it gets
does
into
sound-
another goddess.
Okay.
The beautiful maiden Rhodanthe sought sanctuary from her suitors in Diana's temple, leading her to transform into a rose and her suitors into thorns due to Diana's jealousy. Roses also hold significance in Christianity. Early Islamic traditions mention a story where Muhammad suspected his wife of adultery. He threw a bouquet of red roses into a pool, which turned yellow, confirming her guilt. In contrast, the early Christian church initially rejected the rose due to its association with deceit. It is believed that roses were originally thornless, but developed thorns after the fall of man. During the medieval period, roses became integrated into Christian iconography. They symbolized the Virgin Mary, with the theology stating that a drop of Christ's blood during the crucifixion fell on a bush, transforming it into a rose bush. This connection strengthened the association of roses with Mary in Christian culture. Legends suggest that the white rose has various Christian origins. One tale proposes that the white rose emerged when the Virgin Mary covered a red rose bush with her coat. Another belief is that Mary Magdalene's tears fell upon the red rose, causing it to turn white. In either version, the passionate nature of the red rose is purified by these holy women, resulting in the creation of the white rose. These Christian associations may explain why the knights who wore roses during the tournaments, symbolizing their gentleness and devotion. Additionally, roses are connected to Saint Dorothea, a Christian martyr. When she was sentenced to death, her captor's secretary, Theophilus, asked her to send him fruit and roses from paradise. After her passing, an angel appeared to Theophilus, presenting him with a gift basket that included roses. This encounter led to Theophilus converting to Christianity. These stories demonstrate the profound symbolism and connections between roses and the Christian beliefs and showcases their significance in religious and cultural contexts.
As you were reading this, it kind of made me think of the Knights of Templar. I think there's a association with the rose. So there's something called the Knight of the Rosecroix degree in the ancient accepted Scottish rite. And honorary orders like the Royal Order of Scotland are interpreted as evidence of a historical Templar Masonic connection, though there is no factual basis for this belief. So I don't really know too much about that, but I kind of want to deep dive on that. All right, so we're going to talk about some rose superstitions. So the giving of roses is a time-honored tradition in the Western world, particularly on Valentine's Day. But some superstitions accompany the practice. If you're cutting a rose, be careful no petals fall from the flower, otherwise you'll have bad luck. And in Italy, there's a belief that giving a rose in full bloom brings death to the recipient. So only give rosebuds as gifts. Dude, I never heard that one before. But that's, holy crap. Italians have such weird.
They go like all out.
Yeah, I know. So Margaret Baker claims dreaming of red roses is a sign of success in love and good luck. She also says that in Scotland, if a red rose blooms in autumn, it means a wedding is on the way. It marks a bad omen for white roses to bloom a second time in late summer. She also notes the practice of planting rose bushes on graves. A red rose spoke of the goodness of the deceased. A white rose marked a virgin. On a slightly weird note, in the Tyrol, an alpine rose growing on the roof could protect the house against lightning strikes. Interesting, especially with all those lightning tropes in was it Rules of Magic?
Yeah. That's kind of weird though to like put I mean, I guess on a child's grave it makes sense, but like what if it's like a spinster and you have a white rose bush on your grave like she was still a virgin. You know what I mean?
Aww. Yeah.
What is sub rosa?
This says, so you may have encountered the term sub rosa. So the term is derived from the Latin phrase meaning beneath the rose. In ancient societies like Rome and Greece, a rose hanging from the ceiling indicated that conversations held beneath it were to be kept confidential.
Oh.
So I guess it's like something in law because law uses a lot of these Latin terms.
You know the phrase eavesdropping? Do you know where that came from?
No.
And I think it's Henry VIII's court. The eaves, I guess they thought that there were like little spirits or something listening in, and that like was eavesdropping. But there was also on like the structural posts and shit, there were roses carved in to the wood up in the eaves to like deter the eavesdropping.
Interesting.
I'm gonna have to look more into that, but like that's what I've always heard is that was back from Henry VIII's time.
I've never heard that before. That's fascinating. So yeah, that indicated that the conversations were held beneath it were to be kept confidential. So I'm guessing like, is that what they say? Like if you do some kind of testimony with a lawyer or therapist and that conversation is not to be brought into court because that was a confidential conversation, is that what they call sub rosa?
That's cool. This conversation will be sub rosa.
Yeah, I'm guessing like that's the term that they use for that kind of conversation or testimony. So the Greeks associated the practice with their gods. Aphrodite presented Eros with a rose, and he subsequently gave it to Harpocrates, the god of silence. This gesture represented the idea of don't kiss and tell, contributing to the association between roses and secrecy. And I'm guessing maybe that's why the Knights of Templar are also kind of like associated with this rose symbol because they're shrouded in secrecy. So the Romans carried on the tradition by employing it in their dining rooms. The Catholic Church also adopted the use of roses, sometimes marking confessional boxes with them. Additionally, the Jacobites in Scotland embraced the white rose as a symbol of secrecy. Over time, plaster ceiling roses took on the same symbolic function and can still be found today. An example is the plaster ceiling rose showcased in the image below, dating back to around 1880 and taken from Plough Lane Chapel in Brecon. Its design even includes a gas pipe, indicating its original purpose as a light fitting.
So I found a little bit, and I'll show you real quick, but there are little wooden carvings of like busts of other humans that are carved into the Henry VIII's structural support. They're called the eavesdropper figures, and it says, it's a creepy little statue built into the ceiling beams to warn against gossip or dissension and foster paranoia.
Oh, God.
So it's like somebody's always watching.
Right.
Weird. But there are roses too carved in the ceiling.
I feel like we all need roses carved into our ceilings these days with like Alexa kind of just like listening in on your conversations. So she was like, what do you say? She just went off. She's like, bitch, what you saying about me? Bitch, I heard my name.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. All right, tell us about the Victorian language of flowers. Here we go. This is not the first time this has come up. So
when where roses now traditionally mean romance, their meaning differed in the Victorian language of flowers based on their color. And this says, no, sources disagree on the meaning. So the list below is in aggregate variations that they've seen, but you may know others. So it says white represented innocence and chastity. Red meant I love you and stood for unconditional love. So not a great choice for first dates. Dark crimson meant mourning. Orange meant fascination. White roses with red edged petals meant unity. Pink meant elegance and platonic love. Yellow meant infidelity and jealousy. Ooh, damn. I
Yeah.
really like the orange flowers, like the
The
salmony,
peach
orangey
flowers.
colored
Yeah,
ones.
same. I
But
also heard that yellow can also mean friendship.
yeah, this says some sources say yellow roses
Oh, there we
represent
go.
friendship or joy. No legends or stories back this up, unlike their meaning related to infidelity. So the theory is florists changing the meaning to help them sell yellow roses. Yeah.
Ah, okay, there it is. There
Yeah.
we go.
So we have a little bit more on art and symbolism. And I believe this is from Wiki, so Justina's going to tell us about it.
In ancient Greece, the rose was closely associated with the goddess Aphrodite. In the Iliad, Aphrodite protects the body of Hector using the immortal oil of the rose. And the archaic Greek lyric poet Ibycus praises a beautiful youth, saying that Aphrodite nursed him among rose blossoms. The 2nd century AD Greek travel writer Pausanias associates the rose with the story of Adonis and states that the rose is red because Aphrodite wounded herself on one of its thorns and stained the flower red with her blood. Book 11 of the ancient Roman novel The Golden Ass.
There we go.
The Golden Ass by Apuleius contains a scene in which the goddess Isis, who is identified with Venus, instructs the main character Lucius, who has been transformed into a donkey, to eat rose petals from a crown of roses worn by a priest as a part of a religious procession in order to regain his humanity. Following the Christianization of the Roman Empire, the rose became identified with the Virgin Mary. The color of the rose and the number of roses received has symbolic representation. The rose symbol eventually led to the creation of the rosary and other devotional prayers in Christianity.
No shit. How about that?
Yeah, look at that. Ever since the 1400s, the Franciscans have had a crown rosary of the 7 joys of the Blessed Virgin Mary. In the 1400s and 1500s, the Carthusians promoted the idea of sacred mysteries associated with the rose symbol and rose gardens. Albrecht Dürer's painting The Feast of the Rosary in 1506 depicts the Virgin Mary distributing garlands of roses to her worshippers. Roses symbolize the houses of York and Lancaster in a conflict known as the War of the Roses. So the War of the Roses was between 1455 and 1487. This was known at the time for more than a century after as the Civil Wars, which were a series of civil wars fought over the control of the English throne in the mid to late 15th century, and these wars were fought between supporters of 2 rival cadet branches of the royal House of Plantagenet, Lancaster, and York. The wars extinguished the male lines of the House of Lancaster, leading to the Tudor family inheriting the Lancastrian claim to the throne. Following the war and a forced marriage, the houses of Lancaster and York were united, creating a new royal dynasty and thereby resolving their rival claims. So just in a nutshell, that's the very first paragraph. If you guys want to go down this rabbit hole, we will link it in the show notes. So back to the articles. So that's the War of the Roses. So roses are a favorite subject in art and appear in portraits, illustrations, on stamps, as ornaments, or as architectural elements. Like you were just saying, like they were put roses carved in the wood to keep people from eavesdropping. The Luxembourg-born Belgian artist and botanist Pierre-Joseph Redoute is known for his detailed watercolors of flowers, particularly roses. Henry Fatin-Latour was also a prolific painter of still life, particularly flowers, including roses. The rose Fatin-Latour was named after the artist. Other Impressionists, including Claude Monet, Paul Cézanne, and Pierre-Auguste Renoir, have paintings of roses among their works. In the 19th century, for example, artists associated the city of Trieste with a certain rare white rose, and this rose developed as the city's symbol. It was not until 2021 that the rose, which was believed to be extinct, was rediscovered there. In 1986, President Ronald Reagan signed legislation to make the rose the floral emblem of the United States.
What?
Yeah, I had
that.
no idea about that.
But I do want to say that where I work in Lancaster, their welcome sign says the City of Roses, by the way. It's like they're everywhere. They have a whole festival. So we're going to run through some correspondences for roses, and then Justina has a good bit from Scott Cunningham's book. The roses are associated with Taurus. Their planet is Venus. Their element is water, and the gender, of course, is feminine.
Yeah, and all of these correspondences are the same correspondences from Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. And I love his book because it just gives like a whole kind of like rundown, like what can you use it for? What are, what are the deities' powers? So some of the deities that the rose is associated with is Hathor, Holda, Eros, Cupid, Demeter, Isis, Adonis, Harpocrates, and Aurora. And we said some earlier. Did we also say Aphrodite earlier, right? I don't think that's on this list.
Come on, Scott.
Yeah, come on, Scott. Some of the powers that you can use the rose for are love, psychic powers, healing, love divination. You could do the whole like he loves me not, I guess, with the petals, right? Luck and protection. So some of the magical uses that he gives in this book are that roses have long been used in love mixtures owing to the flower's association with the emotions, because it is associated with the element of water, which rules the emotions. A chaplet of roses worn when performing love spells, but just remember to remove the thorns, or a single rose in a vase on the altar are powerful love magic aids. Rose water distilled from the petals is added to love baths. Rose hips, which is the fruit of the rose, are strung and worn as love-attracting beads. A tea of rosebuds drunk before sleep induces prophetic dreams. To discover their romantic future, women used to take 3 green rose leaves and name each for one of their lovers. The one that stayed green the longest answered the question of which is the one. Rose petals and hips are also used in healing spells and mixtures, and a rose water saturated cloth laid to the temples will relieve headache pain. Roses are also added to fast luck mixtures and when carried, act as personal protectants. Rose petals sprinkled around the house calm personal stress and household upheavals. And a rose planted in the garden attracts fairies and are said to grow best when stolen.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Really? I've never heard that one.
I think you and I talked about earlier that they would do compresses for headaches. I think we said that earlier too. Interesting.
Yeah.
Seems really a popular notion.
And I'm sure if you add like a little rose with some mint, you'd be set.
Oh, yeah.
Mint for headaches, so good. This stuff, my boss actually brought this stuff back for me from LBI. And this is a lavender and mint body lotion. It's just like a lotion, but sometimes like if I have like a little bit of a headache, I'll take like a little dab and I'll just dab it.
It has that menthol.
Oh yeah, it's so nice. It's so nice. And then your whole head is just like on fire.
Put it on your belly so it helps your tum-tum.
Yeah. Not a bad idea. So if we were to associate a flower with love, romanticism, and poetry, a rose would undoubtedly be the first to come to mind. But I'm sure that if we knew a little more about its fantastic properties, we would take advantage of every one of its beautiful petals. The wide variety of roses and their relationship with the different cultures throughout history make their origins somewhat uncertain. Still, without a doubt, there is some legend that I would like to tell you. So we're going to talk a little bit about the magical uses and the descriptions of these magical uses. So for love spells, roses are often used in spells and rituals to attract love, enhance relationships, and increase passion. You can use roses for protection and purification. So the petals of roses can be used in any kind of protective charms, and rose water is believed to cleanse negative energies. So if you don't like smoke, like an incense smoke or like a sage wand smoke, you could just use a mystifying spray in your area of rose water and that'll do the trick. Divination, you can use the rose petals for divination. Dried rose petals can be used in divination practices such as scrying, or you can create an herbal spell bag. And then you can use roses for psychic abilities. So burning rose incense or using rose essential oil can aid in psychic work, dreams, and intuitive development. So those are just some of the magical uses.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We have a couple more uses, and then actually we have quite a bit, and then we have some spells. This is about the essential oil of rose, which is said to have been discovered accidentally in Persia when hundreds of rose petals were thrown into the water because of a wedding. Because of the heat and high temperatures, petals released an oily substance with a delicious smell, and that's how they discovered the rose essential oil. But this didn't create a booming business because it takes 5,000 roses to extract 2.2 pounds, or that 10,000 pounds of roses. to extract 1 pound of oil. Far from the legends and confirmed by ancient manuscripts, it is said that the Egyptians used roses in their funeral rites. Again, like funeral flowers still to this day. As we also know with certainty that the Romans used them to decorate doors and images of gods like Bacchus, Cupid, and Venus. The rose has always been used and considered in a magical world as a flower capable of attracting good luck, love, and health. Is the most famous icon for purity, which I did not know. I don't think rose when I think of purity. I think like of a little like daisy or something.
Yeah, but I guess like our discussion before, I guess it all depends on the color of the rose too.
So rose magical properties and uses. It is used to enhance female intuition since it is a flower closely linked to female energy or the yin energy. Taking a bath with rose water or using its fragrance will develop this intuition, and not only that, but will attract love, health, and good luck. It is also used within the world of Wicca and spells to enhance love, and then in parentheticals it says never voodoo or spells that work against another person's will, or and then it says or to request that our wishes be fulfilled. For this flower, there's a very beautiful ritual that is performed on the full moon, in which you must take a bouquet of roses, and it says it doesn't matter how many roses, but if possible, they should be an odd number, and more than 3, and request with all your best intention something you desire. Then you will need to boil it in a pot, let it stand and cool down, then pour that water over your body in a bath. Oh my God. Or you can use it as a cream to massage your body with. You should see the results of this intention by the next new moon. So quick turnaround.
Yeah. It seems so.
So roses are used for love spells, and by removing the thorns before a ritual, this will enhance the love spell.
I have something to add about the love spell. For when you were reading about number 3, when it said that within the world of Wicca, spells to enhance love, never voodoo or spells to work against another person's will. That Almas Veritas love spell was actually very of pure intention. Like Sally did not name names.
No.
She was not like, I want this guy.
Right.
She was just putting out simple things that she wished for, and like in turn, I guess the universe kind of manifested this guy that existed for her.
100%.
But she did not try to take control over anybody's free will in that love spell. I just want to throw that out there.
A few more here. Girls used to create special love necklaces with rose hips. They also left 3 leaves on it and chose a man for each leaf. The last leaf that stayed on the necklace, that meant that man was for her. They're used to have prophetic dreams. Just make a soft infusion of rosebuds and drink it right before bed. Rose isn't only used for love magic, but also for protection spells and in mixtures to attract good luck. If the petals are spread around the house, they relieve personal tensions and help avoid conflicts. It is said that having a rose bush at home will attract fairies since they have an affinity for these flowers.
So I hope I have a lot of fairies around my property, because I have like 4 rose bushes planted now.
Yeah. That's why all the woodland creatures are like feeling safe to come hang out on your property.
They know it's filled with love over
filled
here.
With fae.
Yeah.
Lastly, rose water is an incredible way to attract beauty and love into our lives, and how it can be used in many different witchy practices. Here's what you're gonna do. First thing to do is to create your rose water. It consists of putting the petals in some water and letting them float under the rays of the full moon until the next morning. After that, you can use this water for the love baths, like we mentioned earlier. You can use this to help you relax and rebalance your energies and to have more self-confidence. You can use the rose water to outline your magical circle in love spells and rituals, or you can spray it on your altar. It gives an amazing energy and the smell. Oh my, they say. It's absolutely relaxing and soothing, perfect for a love spell. You can dress your candles, create perfumes, and even create the oils for your practice. Yeah. But again, you're looking at 10,000 pounds of roses.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about the essential oil, then yeah, you're looking at 10,000 pounds of roses. But if you're just making like an infusion of like a carrier oil, you could take a handful of roses and you can boil those and once you let that cool, that water now has the rose essence. You can also infuse just like an olive oil or fractionated coconut oil. You can infuse with petals. Doesn't have to be 10,000 pounds. You could just take a handful and put in a jar and let that sit. It won't have the same medicinal properties or potent qualities that an actual essential oil would have, but the infused oil is still good to, do anything with. So,
and the rose water is like pretty. It's like pretty pink color.
Beautiful. Yeah. It smells so good. All right. So we're going to highlight this site, crowsbone.com. And this was an article written by Kezia, who shared a decently large collection of spell options that included the rose. We're not going to read all of them through, but we want to just like list what they feature just to showcase how versatile rose can be.
And all of the directions are going to be at the crowsbone.com. We're going to link it. But there was a lot for each one of those that kind of gave you step by step and what ingredients you'll need. But just to give you an idea of how versatile the roses are, this is just where we're going to highlight like what you can do with them, not just in wishing either.
All right. So just to go into some of these wishing spells. So for planting the wish, you're just going to need your rose petals. I think all of these, except the wisher's bag, you just need rose petals, because the wisher's bag, you're going to fill it with a lot of different things. So for planting the wish, you're going to take your rose petals, share your wish with your rose petal. You could do this by whispering the wish to the petal, holding the petal to your chest as you think about your wish, or even by writing the wish on the petal. And now all you do is bury the petal. It's preferred that you plant the rose petal at the base of something growing already, like a rose bush, a tree, or in a bed of flowers. And this adds strength to your spell and helps your wish to grow into being. The next is casting the wish. So what you do is wait for a windy day. This has to be done on a windy day. And much like the spell above, you can share your wish with your rose petal in whatever way you prefer. Hold your petal up above your head between your forefinger and your thumb. And when you're ready, and when the wind is blowing, release the petal into the wind and let it carry your wish into fruition. Kind of like what Sally did, right? To the moon. Yeah, so the next one is the wisher's bag, and this is, you'll need a little drawstring bag. You're going to need some bay leaves, some clover flowers or clover leaves, dandelion flowers or dandelion roots, purple loosestrife petals or the flowers, rose petals, rose buds, or rose flowers, or you can use yarrow flowers. So you're going to fill your drawstring bag, preferably something breathable like organza, and with all of the above stuff that I just mentioned. As you fill the bag, think about what you're wishing, think about it coming true, and pouring your hopes into the bag. If the plants were already dried when you put them in the bag, you can go ahead and put that bag in your purse or wear it around your neck, or hang the bag up near your door, above your bed, in an area of your home associated with your wish. For example, if put it near your writing desk if your wish is to have a piece published or to be a professional author. And then you can make a wisher's jar. So basically it's the same thing as the wisher's bag, except you're using a jar. And you can either fill the jar with the dried plants, or you could put in fresh rose petals and plants. And then you can fill the jar with an oil of your choosing. So what you can do, you can use this oil as an added oomph in any spell work pertaining to you meeting your goals or obtaining your wishes. You can use it to anoint candles you're using in the spell, to anoint yourself while you're working, or to anoint tools used in said spell work. There's some spells here for glamour and beauty. There's rose water can be used in a number of magical ways as part of any glamour. So, wow, there's a lot of spells here.
That's why I only listed them, but I was like,
okay,
she's gonna go with it, so I'll just hang right here for a little while.
Oh, no. All right. No, I didn't realize there were this many and this involved. All right, we'll just go with the few that I mentioned, but yeah, there's tons of stuff you could do: protecting, banishing, binding. You can use a door warding charm for the protection of your home. You could do a protection and banishing candle spell. There's a binding spell, a protection jar spell, and there's a rose vinegar recipe, which I'm interested to see what that is. And then also a bad habit banishing spell.
I think that bad habit banishing I saw on another site.
Okay.
But if you want to check out the vinegar one, it looks like it involves heating up apple cider vinegar. So what do you use it for? It can be used as a hair rinse, and it's very good for your scalp, it says.
Also, you can use roses on this site, there are menstrual health and fertility spells. There's one to bring on a late period. There's one that's called Sip a Spell for Fertility. There's one called Beseeching the Goddess to aid in fertility and conception or to protect a pregnancy. Then there's getting back into the divination. What is this word?
Philorhodomancy?
Philorhodomancy. I've never heard of that word before, but that is a fun one to say. Philorhodomancy is divining via rose petals and leaves. There are various ways of doing this, but any method of divination using rose petals, roses, or leaves is technically philorhodomancy. So here are a couple of methods. There's one that you can do by clapping.
This method was practiced by the ancient Greeks. Take a rose leaf or petal and lay it in your palm. Ask or think on a question at hand, then clap your hands together. If the sound produced was clearer, louder, or fuller, this means that a positive outcome is at hand. If the sound was duller or quieter, the odds aren't in your favor and the outcome will be a negative one.
Oh,
Weird. So
okay.
maybe clap beforehand and kind of get a baseline and then clap with the rose and see what it sounds like. I'd be smacking myself so hard, like it's gonna come to fruition.
They do say that clapping raises the vibration in a room, right?
Yeah.
Like kind of just like breaking up the stagnant, like if you feel like a room has stagnant energy, just go in there and just like clap in all the corners. Like I don't know if I ever told you, Avi's office for like the first like 3 or 4 years of us living in this house, that room was just like a catch-all for just like boxes, garbage, random crap that like, you know, we probably didn't need or just failed to throw out. And for the longest time, we're like, all right, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. And it was just something we just kept pushing to the back burner. And like every time I walked in that room, I just felt like just stagnant, just stagnant energy. I'm like, there's something in this room that doesn't want us to move forward. So I just went in there one day and I just like just started clapping and just like breaking up the
Making
energy,
noise.
making the noise, went in there with some sage, like, you know, just like kind of just bring in a new sense of just life into that room because it just felt so like bleh. And then we also did like a little intention spell that New Year's Eve to kind of like,
Does he do stuff with you?
oh well, if I ask him to, he will. Like he's not opposed.
Nice.
He's not opposed to it. But I mean, he does. I'm not saying he doesn't laugh at me along the way. He's like, you know, he makes jokes, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's open to it. Yeah. So we did like a little intention thing on New Year's Eve, and then like I guess within that half a year, we kind of started making moves to clear out the room,
That's great.
get it cleaned out. We gave it a fresh coat of paint, brought his furniture up there, and now that's his studio and that's his space. And it was just like I had to go in there and just like
Clap
get
it
that
out.
shit going. Get it going.
That's
Sometimes you
awesome.
gotta clap.
Everybody clap your hands. Clap, 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 clap.
You said clap and I'm like snap, 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 snap. Yeah. So there's a couple other ways. You can also do rose divination using water, and then you can also use air. So the water one, you layer drop a rose petal down into a bowl or a vessel of water. If the rose petals pull away from each other, the answer to your question is no. If the petals stay together, the answer is yes. And you can continue asking questions. After each question, tap the water with your fingertip or shake the bowl or vessel to make the rose petals move. And again, if the petals move away from another, it's no. If they stay together, it's yes. There's another variation of this method. You could place the rose petals atop of the water before asking your questions. And with the roses floating on the water, close your eyes and gently stir the bowl or vessel while asking your question. Remove your hands from the bowl, open your eyes, observing the behavior of the rose petals. And as before, if they disperse upon the water, the answer is no, but if they stay together, the answer is yes. So that sounds like the match method. Remember when we were like talking in the sympathetic magic episode about how like to tell if you're cursed or not? And you put the
Yeah.
matches in the water and then that's how you could tell. And then the last one is the air method. So you take a handful of rose petals and think about question, cast the petals high into the air and observe how they fall. And this method has many variations. Some read the symbols or shapes that they see in the rose petals as they fall. Others read where the rose petals lay. Do they form patterns or symbols, or do they cluster together or fan out? Are there any distinct piles or mounds of petals? And what do these symbols or patterns mean to you? This method is one that intuitive readers will likely take to quicker than those who prefer a set system for their divinatory practices. So that's just a little bit about some of the rose spells that you can do and some of the divination. And that looks like a lot of fun.
That's a ton. This thing was like a very long page.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't realize.
No, you're good. Some other ones that Moody Moons listed was you can make a love poppet and fill it. You can make an offering to Aphrodite, or again, you can put them in a bath, like an attraction bath. This comes from auntieflo.com, and this is what roses symbolize in your dreams. So it says, roses have many meanings to them based on the culture and the mythology behind them. Because of the many meanings of roses, the meaning in the dream depends on what you personally feel about the roses in your dreams, and this dictates their meaning. If you experience roses with longing or sadness, this will indicate a loss in your life. Usually, this is not something coming your way, but something that you have already experienced. Fragrant roses that are given or seen with the happiness of love, then there is usually a positive inclination, but it can also be indicative of to feeling loved or happy in your waking life. A rose produces the strongest scent, and often because of this fragrance, it can also bring up a lot of past memories that are represented in dreams. When you have dreams of roses, you should not put too much stock in them, as they are just dreams, and the other details of the dream is what will dictate the true meaning. The rose or roses in dreams should be thought of as a complement to the larger dream meaning. So in these dreams that you may have, so some dreams they list out are grown or watered roses. If you drank tea with a rose inside, if you smelled the roses, if you were given or you receive roses, if you even see pretty roses, if you find dry ones or dead ones, then they have positive changes are afoot if you associate a red rose with love or passion. You are given a red rose by somebody you love or are interested in. You see yellow roses growing wild. Or if you receive roses as a gift, and they can be any color other than white. And they have some detailed dream meanings. Dreams are always subjective, but certain things in dreams will be subjective to more meanings than others. Carl Jung states that the rose is always a symbol of the entirety, the higher spiritual world order. When you dream about a rose, this usually represents love in some fashion, but it can also represent fertility, admiration, and fidelity. The color of the rose also has a special meaning in your dreams. Red roses are most often for love and romance. Yellow roses can denote friendship or lifelong non-romantic love. White roses symbolize both peace and death. Maybe that's why you don't want somebody gifting you the roses when it said any color other than white, is because they're associated with death sometimes.
Oh, observation. White roses on Vincent's grave.
Oh, shit. The rose is a sign of your own mind reflecting on things that have happened and is a symbol of your own feelings. Go with your own instinct about the rose in your dreams to determine the meaning. The rose is from age a symbol of love, affection, and admiration, in particular, the red rose. At the spiritual level, the rose stands in the dream for perfection and passion, life and death, time and eternity. Besides, she embodies the center of life. All right, Justina, what are the different colors in dreams?
We got quite a few here. So, some common interpretations of roses in dreams are if they are red, they can symbolize finding love, which, if a new relationship is beginning, a sign of recognizing love in your life. They could represent being happy in a relationship. And being given a red rose in a dream is an indication that someone new is coming into your life, or that you are going to reach a new and promising level in your love life. And seeing a dying red rose in a dream is the end of a love or a relationship's ending. Dreaming of yellow roses. So dreaming of yellow roses, it signifies a friendship or a deep and meaningful love, a non-romantic love. It can also symbolize the desire to be close to somebody or wanting to open up. It can symbolize increased socialization and finding new friends, or to see a yellow rose that is wilting is a sign to invest more time in friendships. If you see a white rose in a dream, wilting or dead white roses indicate a health issue or even death. Vibrant white roses are an indication of waning health. And white roses over a casket symbolize the death of an era in your life or things changing and progressing in a new direction in your life. I just thought of another pop culture reference.
What?
and the white rose symbolizing death.
What?
In Selena, do you ever see Selena?
No, but I know what happens. Yeah.
Right. In the movie, she has a song called Como la Flor, which is like the flower. I think roses is one of her like motifs. In the movie, she's on a stage, and this is like early in the beginning of the film before like it kind of shows the demise. She's singing on a stage. I think she might be in a white gown. And then somebody throws a white rose to her on the stage, and like the music like stops. And it's kind of like foreshadowing like what's gonna happen. Yeah. So I just thought of that one now because I totally forgot about that one.
I did not know that white had that symbolism.
Right.
Weird.
So some feelings that you may have encountered during a dream of roses are pleasant, pleased, appreciation, loved, enamored, joy, sadness, or also loss, sorrow, regret, doubt, longing, loneliness, abandonment, dismay, discouragement. Then they can also symbolize vibrancy and being entertained. Roses represent love and romance, but different scenarios can also symbolize grief and rejection. Dreaming about the rose bush or rose thorns signifies loneliness in your current relationship and investing much more than your current partner. Subconsciously, you believe that your needs are not being met and you feel outplayed in any way. If you had a dream of picking a rose and its thorns pricking you, that is another sign that your relationship might be headed south. On the other hand, this dream might signify that you have been thinking about some other people and secretly thinking about replacing your partner due to their lack of interest in you.
Jeez.
Damn. If you have a dream about eating roses, there is a chance that you will be rejected in the near future.
Did Bersedia write this?
Yeah, what? Only if it says three days.
3 days.
So dreaming about roses, rose petals, gardens, and other flowers is generally a good omen unless the flower is dying or wilting. And depending on the context, dreaming about dead roses or white roses can also symbolize a severe illness. When people see a white rose in their dream and have bad feelings about it, that dream is not a good sign. And I think that was a dream in Selena when she was like singing on the stage and somebody throws a white rose to her. I think it's implied that was a dream that she had.
Oh, wow. Weird.
Yeah.
Weird.
So seeing anything die or wilt in your dream denotes issues that can be romantic, professional, or related to health. Therefore, seeing a black rose is also a sign of illness, sadness, and grief. In addition, it can mean that someone you love will become sick. On the other hand, a black rose can also signify an unpleasant event, such as losing something or making a mistake.
There's a lot of variations, but it does seem like red is love, white is death.
Or purity. Or innocence, yeah. I guess it all depends on who's interpreting it and the context of, I guess, the symbol.
And what's surrounding it. Yeah, the bigger picture.
Yeah, how it appears to you, what else is surrounding it, all that stuff. So what does Bersedia Ryan have to say about the rose? Tell us, Kristina.
She lists the rose, the rosebud, the rose bush, the rose thorn, rose water. Wow. So which one do you want me to read?
Oh my goodness. She covers her bases.
Yeah, she does.
I don't know. I guess the actual flower.
Okay. It says, someone will verify the love and passionate feelings they have for you. This will catch you off guard and will come from someone you deeply desire. From here on out, both of you will take all of the right steps to ensure a lengthy and fulfilled relationship. These new and wonderful changes will fill you with joy for a lifetime.
What does she say about the thorns?
You are entering a very lucky cycle that will last for the next 4 days. Oh. Your thoughts and intuitive senses are very clear, and you will be able to use this gift to your advantage in order to resolve a very difficult situation. You will also be able to say something to someone in such a way that will get your point across with very little chaos. Many blessings are with you.
Wow, okay. That was a lot. I thought the thorn was going to be a little more, like someone's going to cut you in 3
cut.
Someone's going to cut a bitch. All right.
Thanks,
so that seems like a more pleasant meaning than I thought the thorn would have meant. But so that's all we got for you guys. Wow, that was a hefty episode. We probably could have kept going. Again, I want to dive into like the Knights of Templar because there is the rose is associated with them, and that's a fucking rabbit hole.
Is that a bonus? So we have to do that. We have to do the P word. And there was another one we wanted to bonus episode on, but I don't remember.
They're just piling up. Bonus episodes are piling.
Well, Justina and I are going to be in Salem, Massachusetts, October the 11th through the 15th, and we are hosting a meet and greet, drink night, midnight margaritas extravaganza Friday, October 13th from 9 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. And we will give you more details on the location when we get that, but come hang out with us. Head to our Eventbrite link, which will be in our show notes, and that just lets us know how many people are coming, so then we can let the venue know a head count. You can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast. Justina, tell them some of the tiers. What do they get?
All right, so for tier 1, you guys can get a shout out. You can also take part in our patron only polls where you help us decide what our next topics are going to be. We do have the next, up until the end of October, we have all those topics pretty much set in stone, since we have a poster coming out with our first season's worth of episodes.
Yeah.
But after that, we're going to start posting those polls again. We want your input. We want to know what you guys want to hear us talk about.
Yeah. And next year, I think we should do it. They not just monthly, but have them be able to do clusters, because we do want to keep going with these posters. So it will help us fill out the rest of the year, and you can still be involved with choosing what topics we do.
Yeah. And then also for the $1 tier, you also get a little bonus monthly calendar, a little Magnolia Street calendar, so you guys can see all of our upcoming episodes. We don't really leak our upcoming episodes to the public, right?
No, not until the patrons get the preview, like the Monday before the episode drops.
Right.
But the calendar comes out the beginning of that month, so they get to see like the 4 or 5 episodes we have lined up for that month.
Right. So not only will you guys get the polls and weigh in on what we get to talk about or what you want to hear us talk about, but you also get little early bird information. You get the inside scoop on what we're going to be doing on that $1 tier. Then we have the $3 tier, which is our show notes. So all of the stuff you hear us talk about today on the episode will be compiled into a nice little PDF for you guys if you guys want to go download that. Also check out our hero source notes page, which will be linked in our description below. Just if you want to deep dive on any of these topics that we've talked about, because we can only fit so much in we try to keep
5
it as
hours.
concise as we can, but we know these are hefty episodes. So check the timestamps too below if you guys want to hop around to any of the topics. But we do include those show note PDFs in case you want to read all the information that we put together for you
Put
guys.
them in your grimoire.
Yeah, add it to your grimoire.
I would be very curious. All these PDFs for a year, how many pages it is and how thick it would be printed. You know what I mean?
Oh,
both sides.
God.
But could you imagine? Like
Some of these-
what a piece of treasured knowledge. Like, holy shit,
that
we
is a
learned
tome.
all of this year one.
That is a tome of information.
Right.
Because each PDF has got to be at least 20 to 30 something pages.
Yes.
So if you print
Times
out
52,
30 something pages times 50, holy shit, that's a grimoire in and of itself. We should make seasonal grimoires and just
I kind of want to just go get it printed at Staples. Dude,
that's wow. Yeah, we did a lot of research this past year, and we are so excited for season 2.
we're still going. It's only
I know.
July.
I know,
No,
season 1 isn't even over yet.
We're in August. Okay,
It's
cool.
crazy. So then we have our $5 tier, which is it gets you access to our private Facebook community, our Discord server where we host all of our monthly lives, our watch parties. So get in on that. And also you get to hang out with other Practical Magic fans, other listeners of the podcast. So you just get to discuss and, get to know everybody on a more personal level. And then we have our $8 tier, which is our audio visual tier. We put all of our song-episodes, the full demos that we're working on, any kind of lyric sheets, or any kind of little tidbits of behind the writing of the song. I think I just uploaded over there the full acoustic performance of the version you guys heard on the Brownies for Breakfast episode of our original song. So check that out over there. Again, over there, more full versions of the songs as they are at this point in time. We don't have any of these songs recorded yet. That's our goal. We want to get these songs recorded, but in the meantime, they're going to be really rough for you over there on the Patreon. So just bear with us.
Right.
we gotta polish these turds.
We're gonna get some irons in the fire here shortly.
Yeah.
But also over there, we're gonna do once a month video episodes so you can watch us be bananas. Once a month, we'll have a private link to a YouTube video that will show you. It's going to be edited just like our normal Spotify, Apple Podcast episode, but you get to look at our faces.
Yeah.
And see all the hands that get thrown around. So head over there. That's under our $8 tier. And we put it there just because there is a little more editing that is involved. And for this episode, we're going to throw in some of the video stills so you guys can see what we're talking about in the scenes. So that's under the $8 tier.
Shout out to Mears, one of our patrons, for he requested that feature.
He put that little bug in our head. I was like, I could do that. And yeah, Mears is one of our patrons, but he's also the creator of our hero source page. He has created this amazing structure where we can organize and catalog all of our links and sources and sites just for you.
It's beautiful. It tickles my Virgo bone, right?
Yeah.
I was like, do you have any Virgo in your chart? He's like, I don't know.
Mears, thank you for all you do. Thanks for being a patron. Thanks for putting the idea in our heads to make this visual. Lastly, right, we have our $15 tier, which is our Marco Polo group where we can talk daily about whatever you'd like. We just get to know you on a little more of a personal level, and we get to show our gardens, our pets, just hanging out, no makeup, fully just on the toilet, whatever you want, whatever is convenient.
Just like mundane shenanigans.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to just say, like, some of the $15 people get some of the down low info first. They get like the projects first because we asked them for their opinions too. So get in on that.
Yeah. And just to, I don't think we ever say this on any of our like Patreon plugs at the end. The higher the tier that you sign up for, the more reward you get because you get all of the lower end tier stuff too.
Right.
So it's a big bang for your buck if you want.
Big bang for your buck. And it's always there. It's not going anywhere. It's not like, hey, I'm going to sign up and I've missed this replay or this live. It's always there. We'd love for you to join us on Magnolia Street. Be our neighbor. Join the block party.
Join our block party and leave us a review over on the Apple Podcast. If you guys are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a written review. That would really help bump us up in the algorithms and help other Practical Magic fans just like you discover us and get to know us and join our block party. We just want to have a big party with you guys. And Spotify, you can leave us a star rating. If you guys want to help us out, that would be so amazing.
Please and thank you.
Yeah. Do we have anything else? Instagram? We said that?
Yeah. We're at Instagram. Magnolia Street Podcast. Gmail.
Yeah.
Magnolia Street Podcast at gmail.com.
We would love for you guys to weigh in on any of the topics we discussed today or any of the other episodes. And we love reading your feedback on the air. So
yes,
keep a lookout. If you've ever written us, keep a lookout for, your name or your message being read because we do love reading those.
I think we got a YouTube comment this morning that said like, I found my fam or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Gotta go look at it now. You don't understand how like excited comments make us. So please, please, please don't be shy. Comment on all of our stuff.
It was from Marta Sa and it says, I have just found my friends.
Oh, I see it. I see it now.
It was on our trailer. Sweet. We really got to re-record that trailer. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Well, I hope you have a lovely day.
You too. And I hope you smell all the lovely roses today. I'm going to go probably cut some now or like gather some for some, I don't know. I could go for a nice little love bath.
Yeah, that sounds nice. That would help you bad.
Yeah.
Take a love bath. Love yourself.
Love yourself. Love yourself. Love your neighbor. Love your pets. Love everybody. Be safe about it.
Consent. Consent. All right.
All right, guys. We love you. Stay cool out there.
I'm Justina.
I'm Kristina.
We'll see you next time.
I got the octave for you.
At that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street, would you go down to Magnolia Street where the wisteria grow out? And the house of magic and mystery, so would you go down to Magnolia Street?
About damn time.
It's about damn time. In a minute. I'm gonna need a sentimental man and woman
to call me on Zoom. I put my squatty potty back in the bathroom, and it's the best decision I've made.
Nice.